Hello, I'm Captain Dave of the USS Enterprise NCC 1701D, and you must go and share this stream. Meowkit so.
We're living on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm FTFE, and welcome back to the channel that does to stupidity what the Borg did to 43 Federation starfleets at the Battle of Wolf 359. If you haven't figured out I'm a nerd by now, then what are you even doing on this channel? Thank you and welcome back for another discussion about the shape of our world. Sorry in advance for the pain that this will bring to your brain. Someone returning to the channel who's been here before. His name is actually Iron Horse now, but he will always be known as Flat Earth Jesus to me. Jesus, hello, welcome back to the channel. How are you doing?
G'day, Craig. It's Aussie Jesus to you, mate. Come on.
Aussie Jesus,
right.
yes.
How
Hanging
you
on
doing?
upside down there.
Absolutely. Clinging on by my back claws.
Oh, thank you very much for joining. Doing your finest Gandalf cosplay, I see.
Absolutely, mate.
Yes.
I did it just for you.
Yes.
I hope I got my maps centered right. I don't know if they're showing up on your screen.
So we're going to have a nice general discussion about flat Earth and globe Earth evidence. But in case people haven't seen you before, would you like to take a minute to introduce yourself and give a brief intro?
Well, yeah, no, everybody knows I'm been a nature lover all my life, and basically I discovered around the same time many people did that the Earth is flat. I wrote a bit of an introduction, but whether or not you want me to read it, we got a couple of minutes to
go ahead.
Through it. Or
no rush. Absolutely, go ahead.
Rightio. So today we are not here to debate. There is no debate. It is over. The Earth is flat, and that is that. What I'm here to do is provide free entertainment to the bread and sexes clown show following Flerfs here, while indiscriminately casting seeds into the fertile minds of the clever, the bright, the unshackled minds yearning to escape the failed system and return to a more natural order that every living soul is yearning for and has awaited for thousands of years. It's hardly at all ironic that my antagonist here today has been fighting his losing battle for what, 6, 7 years now? Over this time, I've watched as the flat Earth movement has grown from strength to strength, as the knowledge and new discoveries grows in leaps and bounds, like a kind of wildfire through discriminating minds, knowing that when an idea's time has come, no amount of fighting is going to do a damn thing. If anything, it only encourages another lively little bitch slap in the face of mainstream media censorship, jealous at our success and succumbing to pressures of the outrage from people like Mr. McNeil from Scotland here, throwing overgrown man-child tantrums to fight the reality. Give me back my ball, my blue, my ball. Fight the fire. I can remember when Flerfs first started his brave crusade after his little boy, barely out of diapers, or was he 9 years old, came home in tears one day, crying because someone in kindy told him Santa wasn't real. The spinning space ball. So rather than watch Craig perpetuate his ongoing losing battle, fighting the reality of our stationary planar Earth, fixed at the bottom of the known universe, I invite him to present his best evidence for the spinning space ball, which is the positive claim. If I cannot present a reasonable case for the flat Earth explanation, and let it be Earth-related and not the lights in the ceiling, then I will eat my hat and admit we live on a whirling, twirling, water-covered, crusty, molten, spinning space ball hurtling millions of miles an hour in multiple directions through a vacuum of space, with a magic Klingon pressurized atmosphere that just happens to move lockstep with every wild gyration the magic 8 ball makes, with 1 moon and 2 tides. And that's as far as I got this morning, so good to be here, Craig.
Oh, that was fantastic. Excellent display of the usual personal incredulity, Ross. I very, very much appreciate that. Is there any mainstream science that you agree with, or is it just things related to the shape of the Earth that you have an issue with?
Well, electricity seems to work. Whether or not they gather it the way they tell us we do, that's another thing. But
What do you mean gather it the way they tell us to, as in how it's generated?
Science. Sorry?
What do you mean gather it, like as in how it's generated?
Yeah. Like there's some evidence suggesting that some of these massive pylons that we see might actually be harnessing free energy out of the atmosphere. Now, I don't know about that. I haven't researched enough, but it's, as far as I'm concerned, the mainstream science works. So I'm not arguing with that. It works. Boats floating work. Houses build, structures stand. Our computers work. A lot of mainstream science is very useful, and I've got no problem with whatsoever. But when it comes to the shape and nature of the world we live upon, I think we've been hoodwinked over many centuries into believing something that's absolutely not.
Okay. And I'm assuming that if I present any videos from space or anything, you're just going to pre-dismiss them as CGI, correct?
Yes, because we can't go to space. We've never been to space. And if you've got evidence we've been to space, by all means, present your cartoons. But I don't think you're going to persuade anybody. If anything, you're only going to damage your own cause more. But by all means, show me something from space.
I mean, there's lots of things from space constantly. But anything I show you, very much like when you watched the tennis and thought that was CGI. I'm not kidding, guys. Flat Earth Jesus here once did a video saying that the tennis he was watching was CGI in an attempt to get us used to seeing CGI.
Are you going to let me defend that, Craig? You want me just to give my 2 cents on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, yeah. So back in the day, I've watched bugger all television, and I hadn't watched it in years and years, and all of a sudden, all television that came out became digitalized, and so here I have this widescreen digital television, and for me, everything being digitalized, I could see it was different from how we used to watch it back when I was a kid, and it was very much CGI. It was still of real tennis, but it had just been computer generated. So that's all I was saying. I didn't say that it was faked or made up or done in a computer. I'm just saying that the way digital television presented itself, to my point of view, by having not watched television in years and years, looked like CGI to me. So, all television is CGI. The computer screen is CGI. It's all computer generated imagery. This right now is CGI.
I'm not sure if you know what CGI means, but yeah, okay.
Computer generated imagery. That's what it stands for.
I'm still not sure if you know what that means in particular. Well,
images made by computers, and yeah.
Well, I mean, I can show you things from space that are specifically not CGI. Things that were taken with a physical camera. you know, with someone's hands pressing the button on, you know, imparting light into a lens and onto a film, and then that film being developed when they got back from space. Taken in 1972, way before any kind of CGI really existed. And I've also got one from 1969, one of the previous missions. Obviously, the famous blue marble photo.
Radiation belts, so wouldn't that radiation have destroyed the film before they had the chance to develop it back here on Earth?
Well, maybe they took that into account and, you know, took precautions to make sure the film wasn't affected by radiation. You know,
just some extra gold foil maybe and extra curtain rods, or...
Well, I could read to you the entire process if you like, because they did a lot to modify the cameras and stuff and use particular film and chemicals that were designed to be more resistant to radiation and stuff. But that is all irrelevant to the fact that this is a picture that was taken with a camera. And
it's one of the most fakest pictures I've ever seen. Like, if you can't see immediately that that is fake, I mean, how could the whole thing be in focus in the same amount of daylight? Where's the Terminator line?
You can see the Terminator line on the right.
10% of the continents, you know, everything about that is ridiculously fake.
Okay, so let's talk about like a couple of things you said there. So the Terminator line, right? What I'm going to do is zoom in and show you where the Terminator line is, because it's actually quite easy to see.
You can see a tiny little fuzzy edge down on the bottom right-hand side, but that's the Terminator line. Where's all the sunset colours? You know, why is the whole thing presented like midday brightness?
If we look at this side of the picture, you can see it's a pretty crisp and clear line. However, if we go to the other side, you can actually see how the colours are starting to fade, how it's a lot less. That is the Terminator line, showing that that is the part where it's going from day into night, exactly as we expect from the angle that the picture was taken from.
So which direction is the planet spinning towards now? Doesn't it spin towards the east?
I mean, it's kind of irrelevant because it's spinning at 0.00. Wait, let me answer the question. Whether it's spinning or not is irrelevant, because it's rotating at 0.000694 RPM. So
no, that's irrelevant, Craig, because the whole point is that the purpose of where it goes from day into night happens on the west side of the planet, and that's happening on the east side.
Maybe that's the one. And that is easily explainable, Ross. That is easily explainable because they actually did alter this image. And the one alteration which you're seeing here is that when the picture was taken, it was taken like that. That is the picture that we got from, you know, that's exactly how it was taken, and then the one we see is just it altered round to the correct way.
Well, Antarctica is still going to be in the south, so the right-hand side is still going to be the east.
Do you not think there's going to be two parts?
Going to be the west.
Yeah. Do you not think there's going to be two parts of the Earth that have an area going from light to dark, from dark to light?
The light comes from the east. It doesn't set in the east.
No one's arguing that, but there is going to be two parts on the Earth where there is dusk, correct?
Correct.
Right. Well, what you're seeing here is one of those sides clearly showing it. Yeah, but by dusk I mean, like, you know, where it's, you know, going from that transition from day to night, night to day, right? And just because of the position, you see the right side here, not really the other side. The entire other side of the Earth there is pretty much in darkness. Of course, they're relatively close to the Earth, so the continents are, you know, big compared to the amount of Earth that you can see, which is perfectly explainable with photography.
You can't get to say that because the Earth is massive, right? And the continent of Africa and Arabia up there and some of Antarctica, you can barely even see India there. That's barely 10% of the Earth's surface. We should be seeing 50% of it if you're going to claim that the other 50% is in darkness. So Yeah, we're obviously.
I said
way too
most
close
of
to
it.
the
I said most of the other side would be
that's how we
darkness.
know that
Right?
that picture was faked through a round cutout window. So, have you got anything that's real that's not faked?
So, just to respond to what you're saying there about the sizes, it's literally just to do with how close they are to the Earth and how much of the continents are available based on how close they are. This image I'm showing here is of the same globe taken with the same camera. The only thing they've done is move back and change the focal length, showing that based on the position of the camera relative to the globe, a different proportion of the continents will be visible to you, which is the case in this picture. Why Africa seems so much larger than it normally is.
Yeah, I know you guys like to grapple at a lot of those sort of excuses, but how about that one where you say we're 0.000694 RPMs?
Yeah.
While I don't disagree with that, that is a factual truth. And the hour hand of a clock, if we made a 24-hour clock, then that hour hand is moving that many RPMs. But if we actually made the hour hand to the length of the radius that you guys give to the Earth, which is approximately 4,000 miles, then the tip of that hour hand is in fact going Mach 1.35, which is an extremely fast speed and is barely visible to the naked eye. So the surface of the Earth, if it's all moving at that speed of that hour hand, should really be an invisible blur because it's really moving 0.00694 RPMs.
I mean, you're kind of forgetting the main thing, that all speed is relative. If you were looking at this, if you're looking at this picture right now, okay, and you're out in, well, let's say you're out in space looking at this image of the Earth, in 1 hour.
How far away?
Well, however far away it was when they took this image, I'm not sure the exact number, right? But let's say that you're sat there at that position when they took this picture, right? And you were to sit there for 1 hour and watch the Earth spin. In 1 hour, all you would see is that continent shift to the right by 1/24th of the radius of the Earth. It's not going to be a blur because the entire thing is so big, right? You can watch a plane going at 500 miles an hour in the air, but it looks like it's barely moving because it's so far away. It's not a blur, but if you were standing right next to that plane watching it go at 500 miles an hour, it would be a blur to you. It's all to do with relative distances and the fact that speed is relative itself. There is no absolute speed. So there's no reason why it should be a blur.
Okay, well, but we've also got multiple NASA agents and people that have worked with NASA admit that we've never been beyond low Earth orbit. So,
no one's never admitted that we've never been below Earth orbit.
We're told this image is taken from 150,000 miles from the Earth's surface. And we've also seen the footage where they did it through a blacked out aircraft window, and it was slated and dated for the exact same date where they were supposed to have been halfway to the moon. And we see them because the camera comes back on active, and they see the actors in the background. We see the cutout of the window. We see them fake it. We hear Neil Armstrong being told to speak, and he talks about we're in cislunar space and we're 150,000 miles from the moon.
You're talking about the documentary A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, which has been thoroughly debunked by Gem Panda. And if you want to discuss that particular debunk of the nonsense in that documentary, then he's the one to talk to about that. There was no cutout of a window. They were looking out of a window and they could see space around it. In fact, the actual picture, if I'm to be truthful and show you how the image was taken, right, it was let's go into it and make it so that it's similar to how it was when they took the picture. So what we'd do is we'd turn it round so it's at the right way. So let's imagine that it's all black, and it is, and the Earth's over there. Right. That is the picture that was taken. Right? It wasn't just, it wasn't, that's what was developed on the film, right? It wasn't just a circle in the middle. It was off to the right, with black, off to the left even, sorry, with all blackness all around it. Just like that. That's how the image came from the camera. So none of the nonsense in that A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon about having a circle cutout was anywhere near correct.
Craig, we've seen the video footage of them doing it. So come on, you can lie as much as you like about that.
But except that video doesn't match up with the image that we have. It's not what they said happened doesn't match the actual photo that was taken. So the fact that the picture itself debunks the apparent explanation of how the picture was taken dismisses that entire documentary.
Nah, like the picture is
and
fake.
Also this picture was taken at 29,000 kilometers.
Picture is the true image of the Earth from space. Then I'm sorry that there's something missing inside your head if you think that that is a true image of Earth from space.
Well, I mean, you're saying that it's not without any evidence that it's not, where it matches everything that we expect from...
No Terminator line, Craig. No Terminator line.
I showed you where the Terminator line was, and you went, nuh-uh.
Exactly. Like, I'm sick of debating that particular image. That's something that got debunked 10 years ago, Craig.
It's never been debunked.
Surely you've got
the
something
thing.
better than that, and something that we've seen being faked in a documentary on film, on film that you say can't be faked, which it wasn't. We've seen it. It was slated and dated. They did it through
it was on film.
The cutout of the window. And look, we can send up high, quality digital video cameras now up on weather balloons to 120 to 130,000 feet. And once we get above
see the curve.
about 100,000 feet, the clarity of the continents isn't there because of the of our atmosphere. So to see that much clarity in those
they're taken from inside the
proves
atmosphere.
That they're in low Earth orbit. They're barely 60,000 feet high.
Well, okay, so those cameras, they're only seeing a small portion of Earth, usually through some clouds that are there. Whereas this is seeing the entirety of the Earth, or about 41% of the... I have to dance for the super chat. About 41% of the Earth was visible in that photo taken at 29,000 kilometers above the surface of the Earth.
Barely 50% of the planet showing, if you still believe it's a planet.
41% is visible.
You know how big Asia is, and how big Europe is, and how big the Americas are? There's none of them visible whatsoever, let alone Australia.
Yeah, 41% is visible there. The other 60% isn't visible.
Of the continents. And they're all bathed in daylight, and the rest of them are all supposed to be at night at the same time. Do a time and date calculation.
You see the day side of the Earth. Yeah.
No, you don't, night at the same time, We're 19 hours different time zone from the US, for example. How can 19 of ours, some be in light and some in dark, and all supposedly in darkness at the same time that picture was taken?
Ross, you do realise that spheres are three-dimensional, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
three-dimensional.
So the other side is going to be dark, because and you can have America and Asia in darkness at the same time. Actually, look at dateandtime.com.
19-hour time difference. 19-hour time difference, and according to that image, we're all in darkness at night at the same time.
No, not
you only get 12 hours.
Only 41% is visible there, not 50. So.
You claim that the rest of the planet is in darkness in that.
No, I said most of it, and again, I've said in that picture.
No, you didn't. You said all of it. All the rest that's not in that image is in darkness.
I've said several times that it's most of, and I've also explained the numbers. 41% of the Earth is visible in that picture, not 50%. So there will be some that's not visible in that picture that is also still in daylight.
Can you show me a ball? Like, have you got a ball handy? That, like, you usually have one pretty handy, don't you? So can you show me how, if I'm looking at that, I'm only seeing 41% of the surface and not 50%?
Sure. So get Africa, and let's just get it nice and close to the camera. So right now, Africa is filling up the entire thing, right?
So you basically have to put it in the face of the camera and cut off the edges.
No, I'm not cutting off the edges. I'm like putting the whole thing there, but I'm making it as close as I can. That's just what's available.
Okay,
right? But if you then move away, if I move the camera, the ball away, more around the edges becomes visible as you move away. And Africa is no longer taking up such a large proportion of the amount that's available when you get closer, because I have to break out the paint to explain this to you, because it's actually quite easy. So give me one sec.
How about Craig? You remember when we talked about tides?
Well, let me just do this first, because this is pretty simple.
Okay, I'll let you do that.
Right, so...
And then we'll go back to tides, because I think tides is a great one.
Right, so if we get a nice ball, all right, and then we say we've got a camera here, right? Now, that camera that's right there, it can see this much of Earth, okay? But then we get a camera over here, and this camera can see this much of Earth. But then we put a camera over here, and now this camera can literally see 50% of the Earth because it's further away. That's why the camera that took that image would have been close here, and it wouldn't have been able to see the entire ball, the entirety of the Earth. It's very, very simple. Does that clear it up for you?
Yeah, it really cleared it up for me that both those cameras could see the exact same amount of...
I literally showed you how they can see different amounts.
Yeah, but then the nearer one wouldn't be seeing rounded edges the way it does.
Of course it would.
Just as when you... No, but you brought that ball up to the camera. We all saw you do that. You brought it up close to the camera, and as you moved it away, you still saw exactly the same amount of the ball.
No, actually, if you were to play that back closely and examine the edges, you would see as it moved away, there was more available around the edge than when it was up very close. When the camera is up really close like this, it's mainly showing you, sorry. So when the camera's up close like this, the field of view is a lot less. Right, it can see a lot less of what's available.
You can't see the round edges when you got it up that close.
Well, yeah, because I've got a square, that I've edited into it, cutting off. But if the entirety of it's available and that's what it can see, then like I showed with paint there, the one that's close is just going to see a circle in front of it of the Earth. So if I go back to paint there. The one that's closer here is just going to see, this portion of the Earth here. But it's still going to be a circle to it.
Why would it be a circle, though?
Of course it's going to be a circle, because you're seeing an equidistant area, which is going to be a circle.
So it'd just be a solid view of Earth with no edge?
No, not necessarily. It can still see the other things.
You had your ball close to the camera where the top and bottom were nothing but Earth, then that's how it would be.
Yeah, it can still see around the edges, but it doesn't have the field of view of Earth to see more. It's very simple.
You can't see around the edges if you're too close to it. Simple as that.
But you can still see around the edges and be close enough for the field of view to not show the entire planet. That's what I'm saying. It's very simple to understand.
Yeah, okay. Well, even if that's correct, it's still
and it's like with the picture I showed you of the globe. Where's it gone? It was taken by Tommy Gronville. This one, this is the same globe, and the one on the left you can still see around the edges of it, but Africa has taken up a much larger proportion of the globe compared to the one on the right. See,
it's pretty easy to do if you know something about aperture and how to get up close and open up the aperture and
exactly, and maybe that was the case with the camera that took that picture.
There's you can do if you know how to use aperture.
So what you're saying is it can happen, right? So you agree that it's possible that could happen?
It's possible that you can do all sorts of tricks with cameras. Absolutely, yes.
Tricks with cameras, but they couldn't have done a trick with a camera whilst in space to open up the aperture or something, maybe? No?
Well, no, because they've never been to space. That's the whole point.
Oh, well, there you go. There's a pre-conclusion.
But the fantasy, like we've all seen Star Trek. Does that mean Star Trek is real? Does that mean people being beamed up?
I love that documentary.
It doesn't make it real. Okay?
No one's ever claimed this. Here's the thing, though. No one's ever claimed that Star Trek is real. Picard Season 3 may be the best television ever made, but no one's ever claimed that Star Trek is real. Those images from
Yeah, but you're
NASA,
claiming that
they are real and they're available to see in a museum.
Yeah, well, okay, we agree to disagree on that particular fact because I don't think we've ever been to the moon. I've seen a bunch of recent statements from other NASA and national security people saying that we've never been beyond the firmament, which is about,
No
to the
one
best
from
of my
NASA
knowledge,
has ever said
70
we've been.
miles high.
Right, I'm
They
sorry,
are, okay, that's the thing.
Ross, I'm
Like,
sorry, but no
shut
one
up,
from
I don't
NASA
come
has
to these
ever.
debates to bring all the facts.
Hold on,
But
hold
I
on,
can
hold
tell
on.
you that I've read them, and for the people who want to research this stuff, they can
Right, I
find
know
them.
what you're
I
talking
can even
about.
put a link up later on Facebook or somewhere where people can see the actual quotes by actual people,
Yeah.
which I've
So,
already published on multiple Facebook pages. That's where I do a lot of my debating because at least you can present images there without and do a lot of typing, as opposed to say when
I
we
mean,
do these live chats. I'm pretty
all right,
limited in
Ross.
what I
Okay,
can do as
so
opposed to
the thing
other
that you're
social
talking
media.
about there is the Russian document talking about the CIA, and they use the word firmament, and that's literally just a translation from Russian. That it gets mistranslated.
No, no,
It
no.
doesn't
This is
mean firmament.
specifically from high-level USA, people,
No,
national
again, it was a Russian
security.
document talking about the CIA. And it was a
Not
mistranslation
even mentioning
from
the
Russian,
CIA.
right? I know the document you're talking about. Nobody from NASA or in the USA has ever said that there is a firmament.
Wrong.
No, it's not wrong. I can even get the document for you if you like.
Werner von Braun, the founding father of NASA, who was brought over in Operation Paperclip from Nazi Germany at the end of World War II, has on his grave one simple quote from the Bible that says that the firmament showeth God's handiwork. I mean, how can you
Ooh,
deny that? The
firmament.
father of
Yeah,
fucking
not
NASA
actually
and
what that
rocket.
word is. The correct translation of that word. So
Oh,
if you were to
the
read the original Hebrew text, the word that's used is rakia, which actually translate as expanse, not a
no.
solid dome. The word firmament in this context means expanse, not
It
solid
also
dome. There is
translates
never
as
a
stretched
mention of
out
a
like a
solid dome in
tarpaulin.
the
It
Bible. The
translates
direct
as
hold on,
beaten
let me
flat
finish what I'm
like
saying.
metal.
Please let me finish what I'm
Translates as
saying.
like molten glass. All
Wait,
things
hold
which
on.
describe
I
a
was in the middle of
firmament.
talking and you've not let me finish, right? So, yeah, please let me finish. So, again, the word firmament in the Bible comes from the translation of the word rakia, which in Hebrew does not mean solid dome, it means expanse. Right? And this is coming from a native Hebrew speaker that has read the original text and understands how the translation should work. The firmament was put into the Bible as a word that's used like that around the time that the King James Bible was created. Before that, it was never really considered as a solid dome. With the translation, that's only kind of how people have interpreted it modernly. The original translation, the way it was written, meant expanse. And Warner von Braun having it on his gravestone was just him saying that, the great expanse of space was a big thing for him. That's it.
So that's your way of interpreting it. I've also interpreted the word brachia in 3 different ways, for which I've seen, and as I tried to say, before, of course you don't like to let me speak, is one of them means beaten flat like metal, the other one means stretched out like a tarpaulin, and the third one means as molten glass. Now, for somebody who'd
No,
never
that's
seen,
different
say, a
words.
frozen... Hey, come on. As somebody who had never seen a frozen lake before, that would be a perfect explanation for what we would think of as a huge sheet of ice. All 3 of those descriptions fit it. Stretched out like a tarpaulin, that's
Okay.
like a frozen barrier of ice. So that's what I believe our firmament is, and that is one of the keys to understanding the entire flat Earth model, which you haven't
There is no
even
flat Earth model.
investigated. You just spent your whole time fighting it.
I mean, there
The
isn't a flat Earth
firmament
model, but
is like a sheet of ice through which we cannot penetrate. It can be like molten glass or like a glass barrier. And it's the reason why we see all the stars all at the same focus, because they're all coming through this veil of the firmament at the same height. And it presents what appears to us to be a personal dome as part of perspective, which is why a lot of people mistakenly call it a dome when it's actually just as flat as the Earth itself. And in fact, it's actually quite close to the Earth. Like in our model, we picture this big dome over it. That's how a lot of people think of it. Whereas if we put it to scale, if this firmament is only about 70 miles above the Earth, that's actually like microscopic. But you know how you got your globe model, as you've shown those pictures before, and you've got in say a classroom globe, they say that the atmosphere is no thicker than the layer of the lacquer coating the globe. Well, so in the flat Earth model, the firmament is technically about the same height above us as the layer of lacquer at that scale. That's why it's so hard for us to present a model, because we can't present it in true scale. Whereas for us, in human scale, 6 foot high, 70 miles is massive height. But on the scale model, like the map right there, if I laid a sheet of contact on top of that poster, that would be the height of the firmament. And that is why it's so hard to understand, and for globers to get into their head that how our model actually works. So if you'd like to discuss that and the nature of light and how we observe, say, the celestials and things through it, I keep getting
okay, wow, that was a lot of.
But I prefer to actually, to debunk your globe rather than try to explain the flat Earth model personally, and that's why I keep trying to get you to try to explain how you have 2 tides with 1 moon on your globe. But
that's easy.
We'll go where
anyway. So I mean, so you said a lot there, but I'll just respond to the first thing about rakia. And there's actually different ways the word is written with the apostrophe in the little thing in different places. And the way it was in the original Hebrew text is the translation of expanse. All biblical scholars agree with that. It is only modern kind of interpretations that see that as a solid dome. Talking about the solid dome, it doesn't exist. There's no evidence it exists. It would be able to be seen with radar. Radar cannot see any firmament above it. Therefore, the firmament does not exist. There is no flat Earth model, Ross. There just isn't. There is no model of the flat Earth that explains everything that is going on and has accurate land masses and stuff, as well as,
well, there is. You just haven't looked into it.
I have. I've spent 5 years looking into it.
You're so much in denial of everything. Like, fair enough, I agree that map there is inaccurate because it's based on the globe. Because what they did when they created the globe in the first place is that they assumed that then the outside of the equator area is the equivalent of the north. And so, of course, then they had to shrink it to fit the globe. So then when they re-project it onto a projection of the map, then all of the southern continents are going to appear squashed and squat in. Whereas if they actually
where's the accurate depiction of flat Earth then?
They would actually be a lot bigger. And the Antarctic Circle would be much bigger, probably more like 80,000 miles, not about 50,000 as that shows.
Okay, so where's the accurate depiction of the flat Earth then?
Well, we don't really have one because... it's not that easy to do because...
I mean, it is pretty easy. Cartography is a thing that's existed for millennia.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at say, an actual cartographical map of Australia as it was charted by such people, then that is probably its correct shape. But when they put it onto a globe projection, then it's going to appear squashed because the outside of the equator is much bigger. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger the further outside we go of the equator. The northern inner side is actually quite tiny. But because of your northern hemispherians, you have to assume that yous are the biggest because, the whole world surrounds you guys. In fact, once you get to the equator...
Are we having hemisphere wars now?
Well, it's not me. I mean,
Ross,
it's you guys that started it.
It's
I'm
simple.
just saying that it's not a war. It's not a war, okay? It's just about facing reality.
Right. Here's reality for you, Ross. Right, give me a sec. Right, give me a sec. So, there is no flat depiction of the Earth with accurate land masses and accurate sizes of oceans between those land masses, all right? There is only one accurate depiction of those things in existence, and it's this, the globe. All of the land masses and the distances between them, the oceans, are exactly as they are in real life. And this has been
No,
verified
they're not.
constantly. And in fact, on a recent stream with Flatsoid, I verified it by taking known distances between places, right? Right, so Flatsoid would get the distances between A and B, and then I would get the distance between A and B and measure it on here with a tape measure. And using the scale, the accurate scale that this globe is compared to the real life, which is 1 to 125 million, I was able to accurately calculate the distance between places just by measuring this with a tape measure. Because this is an accurate representation of the land masses of the Earth and the oceans of the Earth. It's the only one that exists.
That's a cool story, but yeah, I'm not interested in what you and Flatside get up to in your spare time, playing with blue balls and stuff. But the fact remains that if we really looked at the size of the continents, then that map would be twice as big outside of the equator, and the continents would then fit to match. And
But
yeah,
no, because it matches this.
fantasy.
This is what it matches. This is accurate. This has the accurate sizes of the land masses. We don't need anything else because it's here. This is accurate
But you
to
said
scale.
like 1 to like 125 million, and you think a tape measure is going to be accurate?
I did it.
Scale?
I did it exact. Well, I was like, a couple of 100 kilometers out, right? But I did
1
it.
millimeter would be 100,000 kilometers in that case. God.
Not 100,000 kilometers. The Earth is not that big. But I was a few hundred kilometers out, right? But he was giving me very specific places, from a place on the coast of A to
Anyway,
the place on the coast of B.
I don't want to live in your
And I
past
did
story,
it,
Come
right?
on.
So this is
I've been trying to
empirical
push you. I've been
evidence
trying
that
to
it
push
matches
you,
reality.
because as far as I'm concerned, in your spinning spaceball model, okay, in the heliocentric model, you've got the sun racing through the galaxy at 500,000 miles an hour.
Right, so you're changing
514
subjects.
if you ask Google. Sorry?
So you're changing subjects from the fact that the globe is an accurate depiction of the land masses of the Earth.
Yeah, but that's right. We're moving on past that because I'm sick of dealing
because it
in the
debunks
past.
you. Yeah, because it debunks you. Right, I understand.
Okay, if you think it's debunked me, I don't know how it turns it into a spinning spaceball, which is what we're trying to get at. Is the heliocentric model is the spinning spaceball hurtling through space, chasing the sun with a moon going around the Earth.
Okay.
Do you
we can get to all that, but does the Earth stop being a globe because it's moving? Assuming the heliocentric model is correct, does the Earth stop being a globe if it's not moving? No. My point here is that we know the Earth is a globe. Ignoring the spinning and everything right now, just the shape.
Well, no,
the Earth.
You can't ignore.
Just for a second, right? Because we can do one thing at a time, right? We can do one thing at a time, right now. Hold on.
Ignore one thing that's convenient.
Here.
And then
right. Give me a chance, Ross. Give me a chance. We can get to that, but we can do one thing at a time. But right now, we're simply talking about the shape. We can get to all the rotation and gravity in a sec. But right now, let's just focus on the shape. And the shape is verified by the simple fact that a globe has accurate land masses on and accurate distances between those.
How can you claim a shape when there's no visible curvature anywhere?
This has accurate land masses. It matches reality.
The land masses don't curve.
Well, they do. That's been measured. Like the transcontinental triangulation of the American arc of the parallel literally measured the curve of the Earth over the entire continental USA.
No, you're imagining it.
No, I didn't do it. It happened. Other people did that measurement. I didn't imagine it.
Do you know how much curvature drop there would be from one end of the Suez Canal to the other?
Measurable, yeah.
Over a mile of curvature drop, and there's none.
I don't think
you know what a mile is in height.
That's not a correct thing to say. But the curvature is measurable in the Suez Canal. I mean, there's literally a horizon, so But I mean, you're changing the subject, Ross. Right? Let's focus on the one point, right? That the globe has accurate representations of the sizes of the land masses. The distances are correct. The shape is correct, and the distances between them all is also correct. And you can calculate the distances. Wait, hold on. Let me finish, right? You can calculate the distances between point A and point B using something called the Vicenti formula, which is a variation of the the formula for Earth that takes into account the slight obliqueness, right? So you can literally use the maths of Earth's curve, including the obliqueness, to calculate the distance between point A and point B using a globe. What does that tell us? Yes.
Obliqueness now as well. No,
yes,
Craig,
the Earth has a very slight obliqueness, correct.
Curvature. Like, if you don't understand how the curvature formula works, it means every direction.
I understand very much. I just explained the formula. It's called Facenti formula, and you can use that, which takes spherical into account.
Explain it for you. Thank you. Every distance away from you, 90 miles, is 1 mile of curvature drop in order to make your spinning space ball of 25,000 miles circumference into a sphere,
yes.
a plate or otherwise.
And
it has to be a mile of drop in just 90 miles in every direction.
Yeah,
now,
and it's
you
been
know
measured.
What the world's tallest building is, the Burj Khalifa. It is 1/2 of a mile tall. So you've got 2 of them, one on top of the other, every 90 miles of distance of drop in every direction. In every direction, Craig. You can't just say, oh, well, it's happened somewhere over there. How distance is that up?
Again, it's all been measured.
Fucking drop, Craig. Stop.
The curve has been measured. You just keep denying the fact that the curve has been measured, though. That's the thing. We have measured that the curve is there.
It's a mathematical formula that the rate of drop is that 8 inches per mile squared has to exist somewhere.
Not really how it works. Everywhere, and they measured that. They measured that.
Don't see it in 100 miles. Don't see it in 1,000 miles. Where the fuck is it?
They've measured it, Ross. They've measured it.
Where?
In the transcontinental triangulation of the American arc of the parallel. In the similar. Wait, hold on. Do you want me to answer the question? Do you want me to answer the question?
Where's the mile of drop across the Suez Canal? A mile.
Yeah, measure it. If you measure the curvature, you will find that.
100 miles.
Yeah. Have you ever measured the curvature around the Suez Canal? Or are you just making an assumption that it's not there right now?
I know it's not there. It's been.
How do you know it's not there? Have you measured it?
It's written into English law that says that they are no longer allowed to account for the curvature of the Earth.
No, it's not.
The English failed to get the contract.
No, it's not. That is a complete lie.
That he's going to build it according to assumption that the Earth is flat, and he got the contract and he built it. And from then on, the English
nothing you said there is correct.
They can no longer account for curvature of Earth in building canals or railways.
No, that's completely wrong. That is not true in the slightest. Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Hold on. So hold on. So Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the father of the British railway system, literally took the Earth's curvature into account when designing his railways. What do you say to that?
Not a single engineer in the history of the Earth has taken
apart from Isambard Kingdom Brunel, of course. The one I've just mentioned. No. So apart from the one I've just mentioned to you, the Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the literal father of the British railway system, took the Earth's curvature into account when designing that railway system.
No.
Yeah.
No.
There is.
Where's your evidence?
You can look up anything from Isambard Kingdom Brunel and to do with the British railway system, and you will see it. Talking about evidence, where is your evidence that it was written into English law that you can't take the curvature of the Earth into account? Because that is a straight-up lie.
There's hundreds of accounts of engineers saying that they do not take into account curvature.
Show me one.
The only curvature that's ever taken into consideration is the fact that our maps, when they're first drawn, are drawn in circles around the North Pole. And so because all our latitude lines are done in circles, then if you went due east and you stayed straight due east, then eventually you're going to have to account for the curvature to head back.
Who said that all maps are drawn around the North Pole? Where'd you get that from?
They are.
No, they're not. That's just an azimuthal equidistant projection centered on the North Pole. I can show you a map that's centered around pretty much anywhere in the world. You can have azimuthal equidistant projection at any point on the planet. Let me ask you. Hold on. Let me talk a sec. Is the Mercator map centered around the North Pole?
Show me a map where the latitude lines are not centered around the North Pole.
The Mercator map.
The Mercator map. Show me the latitude lines where they're not centered around the North Pole.
Yeah, it's a square. It's called an equirectangular projection.
but the latitude lines were still drawn in accordance to being circles around the North Pole.
Because that's how the Earth is a globe, but those latitude lines that you're talking about get smaller.
That's how the globe
those latitude lines get smaller as you go down from the equator, and that is a fact.
No,
the measured circumference of the latitude lines are smaller as you go down towards the South Pole. This is a fact.
So this is where you're lying.
No, that's a fact. I'm a sailor that has been around the world and seen that in action.
This is where your English forebears began their lie, because they didn't want to believe that their part of the Earth was so much smaller than what gets bigger and bigger. And that's why
any evidence of that?
It goes pear-shaped below the equator, and there's no up or down in space.
Yeah, that's the oblateness I was talking about.
Why would it go, oblate? But it's 27 miles. You wouldn't notice that.
Yeah, that's the oblateness. Yeah, that's what the Vicenti formula has for it.
The entire Earth keeps getting bigger and bigger outside the equator. But you've lost your reference point.
No, it doesn't. Outside the equator, the circumference lines are smaller.
Your reference point was always Polaris. And as soon as you lose sight of
that's just
Polaris,
one reference point.
Below the convergence point, you've got no reference point to keep measuring degrees of its drop, apparent drop due to perspective as you get further away from it.
What are you talking about?
Everything gets lower and lower as you get further away from it. You're seeing streetlights down the street.
Streetlights down the street don't work the same way that Polaris drops based on your distance away from it, though.
Why not?
Because the interesting thing is that on a flat surface moving away, assuming that every light is the same height, the angle between those lights will alter as you get further away based on a flat plane. However, if you're looking at Polaris and you're moving away from it, what you find is that the angle changes by 1 degree every 69 miles. If the Earth was flat, that wouldn't be 1 degree. For it to have the position that... No, let me finish, right? For Polaris to maintain the position that it does, based on how far away you are from it, it wouldn't mathematically match something like streetlights being the same distance, looking like they're going down into the distance. The angle of 1 degree change only works if the Earth is a globe, not if the Earth is flat.
Okay, have you finished?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I stopped
now, it
talking.
works exactly the same as street lights, except with Polaris, it's just the one light. It's the one fixed light. So why the heck would it work any differently as you got further and further away? That it would just explain to you why. Every 69 miles, exactly as you'd expect it to do if it was flat and parallel above the Earth, and we're moving on a flat surface away from it, as we do on a road, and the lights get lower and lower. Well, so would Polaris by a degree every 69 miles until the point you reach the equator where it hits the convergence point, and then you've lost your frame of reference for how you measure degrees. And so, of course, everything goes pear-shaped.
You haven't lost your frame of reference.
It would work no differently from the street lights just because it's a light up much higher than the street lights. It would work exactly the same way. So
mathematically it wouldn't, right? Hold on, Ross, let me respond to that. Mathematically it wouldn't, right? The drop of 1 degree for every 69 miles is something that only happens because the Earth is curving. That if the Earth was flat, every 69 miles, the drop would not be 1 degree. It would be different. It would in fact increase. So 169 miles, it would be 1 degree. The next 69 miles, it would be more than 1 degree. The next 69 miles, it would be even more than 1 degree. The 1 degree per 69 miles, the 1 degree per 69 miles specifically matches the geometry of the globe, not a flat Earth.
No, because you've automatically back-engineered your globe in accordance with those degrees that you've observed in the first place. You can't make the claim that proves the curve because we believed it was the curve. You've back-engineered it against that.
And how did we back-engineer it? I'm just saying that the maths works on the globe and not in flat Earth.
By what you observed. By what you've observed. You don't know that it is exactly the same distance. When you're on water, you've got
No, it is the same distance. You go 69 miles, and then you look at Polaris, and it's 1 degree lower in the sky. 69 miles again, look at Polaris again. It's 1 degree lower in the sky. That matches a globe. If the Earth was flat and Polaris has a fixed position above the North Pole, for every 6-9 miles, it would not be a 1 degree drop. It would be a different amount each time.
It matches the presupposition, what you've already presupposed. You've assumed that that's matching
Nothing
curvature.
wrong with making
And yet, if
assumptions.
I
That's
did
how
the same
science
thing
works.
walking down the street, it all just depends on the height of the street lamp, doesn't it? Now, I could walk 2 blocks away, and then the street lamp is melted into the, it's disappeared into the convergence point, and so then I can work out the curvature of the street according to how many degrees, and then I can base my measurements. Well, every time I get a degree closer, well, that's 15 metres, that's another 15 metres, or whatever the case may be, because of the height of the light bulb in the first place. It's got nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. If you can prove to me that the water itself that the sailors are sailing upon is actually curving down away somehow, because we've never ever seen
that's
water
easy.
do that in any
Water curves all the time.
Prove that the water itself is curving in conformance with the globe that you presupposed, then by all means show me this curving water, because you cannot do it. It doesn't exist.
Okay, so in Nottingham, there is something called a tow tank testing facility. It's a massive basin, one of the biggest in the world. A massive basin of water, okay? And they do hydrodynamic testing of water vehicles in it, right? For the military, for all sorts of things, right? For submarine designs and everything. So they see how waves and stuff act on the dynamics of things that are going through it, and they use these tanks to test it, and they're humongous, right? One of the most important things about these tanks is that the water is level, right? They have like wave dampeners and stuff to make sure that the water stays level when when you're trying to test certain things. The water has to be level for the entire length of the tank, right? Of course it has to be, right? Now, the interesting thing is that the engineer that sets up the device that measures the distance the rail is above the water, he will go along for each 10 meters and he will make sure that the distance above the water, the rail, is exactly the same the whole way along. And then once he finished, he knows that that rail that the thing is going to be on is level to the water. When you look at the specifics of that tow tank, you find that that rail is curved. Not only is it curved, but it has an arc to the curve that matches the predicted curvature of the Earth. Now, if that rail is curved and it is level to that water, what does that mean?
It means that you don't understand perspective and convergence across a vast distance.
Again, the engineer confirmed that that rail is curved, right? That the rail is curved. He knows it's curved. He's made it. He's the engineer that's done it, right? That rail is curved. But at the same time, that rail is absolutely level to the water. So, 2 facts here have to be taken into account. Fact 1, the rail is level to the water. Fact 2, the rail is curved. What does that imply?
Yeah, well, I don't know, because I don't know anything. This is the first I've heard about these really big basins. How many miles big are they exactly?
Well, they're very big. I think the one in Nottingham is well over 800 meters long or something. There's several different basins at the facility, but they're big enough that the curve of the rail is something that has to be taken into account when designing it and keeping it level to the water. So if the rail is level to the water and the rail is curved, what can you imply from that, Ross? Let's not have any bias on it, just those 2 facts. The rail is curved and the rail is level to the water. What does that imply about the water?
First of all, we have to take your word that you know what you're talking about. And I have to trust you that, you're a real authority on all the facts that we've seen so far. We know your history of how dishonest you can be.
I've never been dishonest.
No, well, there you go. That's all the proof we need.
Yeah.
So, everybody tells a little white lie occasionally, Craig. Everybody.
So, again, I just want you to, take your bias aside for 1 second, right? And this comes from the engineer, right? The engineer says that the rail is curved and the rail is level. If we take those 2 things as fact, what does that imply about the water?
Well, how much curvature are we talking about? Now, if we're talking about
The
a
same amount of
kilometre,
curvature that matches the arc of the curve of the Earth, right? But that's irrelevant to the
a
actual
kilometre
question that I'm
would have
asking. If
eight,
it, Ross,
eight
I
centimetres.
just
Eight
want you, I
centimetres
literally
of
just want you to answer this question. If the rail is curved and the rail is level to the water, what does that imply about the water?
It's flat.
How is it flat if the rail is curved
Because,
and
Craig,
level?
Well, you're not going to answer my question, are you? If we're going to
I
talk
will
about
once you've answered my question.
8 centimetres of curvature over a kilometre is how much the globe would show. So if this engineer can actually measure 8 centimetres over a kilometre, he needs
It's his
some
job.
pretty damn good optics.
Yeah,
Because
he's
amount
bloody
every
good at his
10
job.
centimetres would be a fraction of a, so tiny
You
you
know,
wouldn't
these
even
things
notice
have to be
it.
made. You know, they
The
had
excuse that
to
you
make
guys
them.
always use to say along that the Earth is too big to see the curvature in the first place, and yet you're telling me he can measure it in just a single kilometre or 800 metres.
But they're very precise. They're very, very precise. So precise that they have to take into account the curvature of the Earth, right? So,
please tell me, Craig. Please tell me, Craig. What is he measuring it in comparison to?
The water.
He's measuring the water in comparison to the water.
No, he's measuring the rail in comparison to the water. The rail is level to the water.
So the rail is perfectly straight and level.
No, not straight and level. Level and curved.
But the water is curved. I don't know which one.
If the rail is curved and the rail is level to the water, that means that the water. I told you he goes along at each point to check that the rail is an X amount above the water, right?
But it would be exactly the same if they're both following the curve. Make up your mind.
Now, if it's following the curve of the Earth, that means that the rail will be curved, which means that if it's level to the water will also be... Come on, Ross, we can do it. If the rail is curved and the rail is level to the water, that means the water is also...
So if he's measuring the rail 1 metre above the water here, it's 1 metre above the water here, it's 1 metre above the water here, it's 1 metre above the water here, how will we know it's curved?
Because the thing had to be built.
Where's the curve coming from, Craig? Where's the curve coming from? Where is
the curve? Is in the rail is physically curved. It's designed to be curved. They built it curved because that's what they needed it to be level to the water.
You're just assuming curvature.
No, I'm not assuming curvature. The engineers measured the curvature in the rail.
In the rail compared to the water?
Just in the rail. And the rail is level compared to the water. So at every single point along that rail, it is the same distance above the water. Yet, the rail is curved.
So you can't prove there's curvature if it's the same distance everywhere. Where is the curve? Where is he measuring the curve, Craig? Where is
the rail is physically curved.
Where? How?
Because they've measured that it's curved.
What?
The engineer that has designed this tow tank has had to take the curvature of the Earth into account when designing it. The rail is physically curved. When they made that rail, they designed it to be curved. Because that was the only way... Hold on. That was the only way that rail could maintain its levelness to the water was by being curved. And the reason for that is because the water is curved.
If I hold a spirit level straight and I drew a line that was a little bit higher above it in the middle and a little bit lower towards either end, and it was pretty well leveled the whole way,
that's not level.
Curve, because you can measure how much more above
I don't think you know what level means.
That line is above the level. So how are you measuring curve if both are level? Where's the curve? How are you measuring
the rail is physically curved. When they built the rail...
But how do you know?
But
what's he measuring it in comparison to?
Right, Ross, listen to the words coming out of my mouth. Listen to the words coming out of my mouth, right? When they built that rail...
the rail regurgitated again and again, Craig.
No,
it's not going to change anything.
Okay, so...
Where's the curve?
The curve is in the rail.
It's in the rail, but they're measuring it to what?
The water. which is also curved.
Which is also curved.
Yes. So because the water is curved and the
water
rail
being
is
curved?
level to that water, the rail is also curved. Now, listen to these words. When they built it, they built that rail curved because that was the only way it could match the water, right? And they check that it is. So once they've installed that rail, the engineer then went along every like 10 meters or whatever and checked that curved rail is still X amount above the water, right? And it was. At every point, the rail is level to the water, but the rail is curved.
Okay. Let's assume you've got this curve. Where is the curve? Like, is one end of the pool like that 8 centimeters lower than the other end, or is it just the 4 centimeter bump in the middle? Like, where is the actual curve?
There is a curve there's a curve that equates to 1 degree every 6 to 9 miles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Over across a kilometer.
Yeah. It's the same. It matches the arc of the curve of the Earth.
It's absolutely undetectable.
Well, apart from the engineer that detected it when he built the tow tank, of course.
Well, we have to assume that, but he
it's
could
in the
easily
engineering
just tell us
specifications, you know.
Still build straight, flat, and level, and nobody would know any different.
Well, they would, because
that's exactly
it wouldn't work.
What it is. From one end to the other, it's still the same level above it everywhere. There's nothing to compare either the water level or the rail level to anything else to see where the curvature is. It's just an assumption. And it's
not an assumption because when they built that rail, the rail was curved.
How about we deal with something like the Suez Canal, Craig, where it's 100 miles long? You know,
and have you got any evidence that the water's not curved? Have you compared the water at every point and see if it's curved? And in fact, I can prove to you right now that the Suez Canal is curved anyway because the sea level at one point of at one end of the Suez Canal is actually higher than the sea level at the other, so the water has to be curved.
No, that's what we call either tides or
no. The average sea level is higher.
All the rivers and stuff that flow into that means that the water is going to flow a certain direction because water is always seeking its level. So even flat and level water will still have a flow on your tidal waterways like rivers and canals.
So it's not flat though, is it? It's not flat, is it? Because it's curving from one point to the other.
2 Burj Khalifas of height. 2 Burj Khalifas. You know how big that amount of drop is? You would see that with the naked eye. You wouldn't even need a telescope.
How could you see it with the naked eye? There'd be a horizon in the way. You wouldn't be able to see the drop because the horizon would be in the way, Ross.
But there's pictures taken of the Suez Canal from high enough from one end to the next. There's no drop. No drop. No.
Are you sure? Did you measure it to check, or are you just saying that? Because I can show you actual geodetic measurements of that area that show that it is curved.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Just go to mctoon.net/r.
Oh, for fuck's sake! You mean no?
All the documents are there. There's several documents there of measurements from all around the world.
Yes. Let's try and deal with reality here, Craig. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. The tow tank is a pretty good explanation of reality.
You keep avoiding this, so we're getting there. We're getting there slowly. So the Suez Canal, obviously, it has water flow one direction to the other.
Yep.
How do you explain how every continent on your spinning space ball has 2 tides in one day with the gravitational pull of one moon on one side of the Earth?
I've explained this to you so many times, Ross. I think I've even got the diagram in here from last time. Let me see.
Yeah, but it's hilariously funny because if you're saying that the moon is pulling the tides one direction, and we know that the gravitation of the entire Earth is pulling all the ocean towards the Earth, right? But the moon overrides it. And then you say that the moon pulls the Earth through its own oceans to create a bulge on the backside.
Yeah,
and that automatically negates the first tide in the first place.
Say that again?
You're too busy looking for diagrams. Why can't you think with your brain and talk?
Well, because it's better to... crayons are the best way to explain things to you.
Why don't you just speak with common sense and tell me how it works?
Well, you just explained how it works and then said, but that doesn't work.
Well, that's right. Because if you pull the ball through its own oceans, then it's going to negate the tide closer to the moon, isn't it?
No, because it doesn't pull it all the way.
All the oceans towards the Earth. So it's also going to pull the one at the back towards it.
No,
as
it
well,
doesn't pull
because
it all the way. No, all right, do you want me to explain it? It's very, very simple,
The
right?
moon's gravity is about a sixth of what the Earth's is.
Yeah, do you want me to explain it? It's very, very simple.
Oh, go for it. Make a fool of yourself again.
It's
This would be great.
so
Put it down in
simple,
history.
right? It's because.
Craig shows the spinning baseball tires.
Do you want me to explain it, or are you just going to keep babbling?
I'm waiting for you, Craig. I'm
Okay,
just doing a
brilliant.
bit of
So
narrative
keep trap
over
shut and let me do it
what
then.
you want.
Yeah, so it's very, very easy, right? The gravity, when you look at the law of gravity, it's got an r squared at the end. That means that its force is proportional, inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. So the further you are away from the gravitational source, the less powerful it is. So if you were looking at the moon and the Earth and the water around it, imagine the water around the Earth as a bubble with the Earth sitting in the middle of it, right? Now, that bubble closest to the Earth has the strongest pull on it. So it pulls it out in a bulge towards the moon. Now, the Earth, which is the second closest to it, has a slightly less gravitational pull, so moves it slightly towards the moon, but not as much as the water, which was pulled further because it was closer. This leaves a gap on the other side and makes the bubble squish out. It's very, very simple. The water on the other side of the Earth compared to the moon has the least gravitational attraction, so is pulled towards the moon the least, which means that the Earth is in the middle of the tides, which are constantly being pulled towards the moon, and the Earth literally spins in the middle of this squished bubble. Very simple.
Extremely simple, except I recall you telling me before that a sphere is three-dimensional.
Correct.
And you've just shown like a very two-dimensional
It
explanation.
works in 3 dimensions as well.
Works in 3 dimensions as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. So the Earth's gravitational pull towards the oceans is how many times stronger than the moon's from 240,000 miles away again?
It's a lot stronger, but it doesn't mean that there is no gravitational pull. More than one force can exist at the same time. So you've got the main force, right? Let's say the bigger force being created by the mass of Earth, right? That is holding the water to Earth. But there is a smaller force being created by the mass of the moon, which is moving the water slightly, but not enough to pull it off of the Earth, because the Earth's gravitational pull is a lot greater.
Well, obviously.
But what you need to do then is sum out the completeness of it. So if you were to take the Earth's gravitational pull on the water and subtract the moon's gravitational pull on the water, you would get what the water is doing, and it would match those sums.
Okay, so the backside of the Earth from the moon has all of Earth's gravity pulling the oceans to it, and that tiny little bit of the moon's, which is less because the Earth is in the way, but it still has a high tide.
Yes, I just explained why.
No, I just asked you a question.
Because the moon also has a gravitational pull on the Earth. Right?
But all of Earth's gravity and all of the moon's gravity are pulling the opposite direction. It should have an extremely low tide over there and an extremely large tide on the moon side.
No, I just explained why not, and just you not understanding it doesn't change it.
Gravity could pull water in the first place.
Well, water has mass, therefore gravity affects it. Simple as that.
No, water is made out of individual molecules.
Yeah, which have mass.
Know what a liquid is.
Every molecule has mass. Liquid has mass.
The fluid.
Fluid
but
has
they're
mass.
all individual ones.
Yeah, and every individual molecule of water is being pulled with the same gravitational force.
You can't grab a handful of water and pull it because the individual molecules, being fluid,
every individual molecule is being pulled.
No, but they're not, because they're just falling straight out. It doesn't matter how strongly you pull the water. You can pull its container, but you can't pull the water.
Gravity is the container.
And gravity is the container. So the moon is the container of the ocean.
No, the Earth's gravity is the container of the ocean. The moon's gravity manipulates the shape of the water because it's less than the Earth's gravity. It's very
It's
simple,
being
right?
pulled
Right. Let me explain this like I would to a 5-year-old, Ross. Earth big,
Yeah, I think you should,
so
mate,
big,
because you're
water
making
hold
lessons on a
on.
5-year-old.
Moon small, gravity not as big, doesn't pull water away, but still big enough to affect the shape of water. Simples.
Makes no sense, Craig. Makes no sense.
Makes a lot of
You
sense. I've
cannot-
got to dance to the super chats.
You cannot pull water.
Of course you can. Anything with mass can be affected by gravity.
But we've just determined that water is made up of a heap of individual molecules. So
Which
it's not
have
a
mass,
mass.
yes.
It's a fluid.
They have mass,
There's
yes.
mass, there's fluids, and there's gases.
No.
Or there's liquids and there's
what are you
gases.
talking about? Fluids and liquids, fluids, gases, they all have mass.
So if I
Anything of matter
if
has
I grab a
mass.
handful of air, am I pulling air if I do this?
Yeah, you are actually.
I am.
Yeah, if you
I
went
can't
like that,
feel
I'm
it.
putting air towards me.
Right. And so if I did the same in a bathtub and I kept lifting it up, am I pulling water or is it just staying where it was?
Well, you'd pull water up, yeah, and then gravity of Earth would, once you let it go, pull it back down.
Right. Yeah.
Of course you can.
Wait,
are you denying? Right, hold on. Are you denying that water has mass?
Water towards it and create a secondary high tide on the backside of the Earth.
Sorry.
It makes
Are
no
you
fucking sense.
wait? Hold on. Are you denying that water has mass?
In a sense, because I'm saying it's a liquid.
That's dumb
It's
as
liquid,
fuck.
it's
Of
mass,
course it
and
has
gas.
mass. If you take a cubic
It has
meter of
volume.
water, that water has
A water-
mass.
A water molecule has mass, and you can
Yeah.
have a volume of water if you have
Which
a container.
which still has a mass.
It doesn't
That volume of water will have a mass which is equal to the sum of all the molecules of water.
But it's still a liquid. You can't call it a mass. It's a
No,
liquid.
liquid
It's a
has
volume of
mass.
liquid. Yeah, but if you say poked a hole in
Gas
the bottom
has
of the container,
mass.
if you poked a hole in the bottom of the container, then all that liquid is going to flow out and go back to its own level.
Doesn't
So it's
stop
not
it
really
being,
a
doesn't
mass
stop it having
as
mass, right?
Mass means matter.
No, it doesn't.
No, matter. Solid
Mass doesn't mean
solid
matter. Anything with matter
Liquid
has
is another
mass.
a property of matter. It's a property. It's not a mass in its own-
Anything of physical
It's
matter, Ross, right, stop. You're very confused here. Anything of physical matter has mass. Liquid has mass. Gas has mass. Anything, a single atom of hydrogen has mass.
Yes, but the properties of that mass is not the same as a solid mass. You
No
can
one-
pull a solid mass. If they lift it up a
Yeah,
block
yeah,
of
because
wood,
there's different
the whole
states
block
of-
comes with it. But if you lifted up a block of water, it'll have to be frozen. You can't lift a liquid. You can't
Doesn't
pull a
mean that liquid
pull-
doesn't have
it
mass because you
doesn't
can't
mean-
lift it up with your hand.
You can only pull its container.
No, you can't. Of course you can. Right, I can literally pull water coming out of my tap by getting a balloon and making it static. That will pull the water towards that balloon.
Well, try doing that with a fire hose and see how much success you have. You're using small
It
scale.
would still work. There would,
something.
right. There would still be a static force pulling that water. Right. You just right. Stop. One sec. One sec. Please give me the mic. One sec. Ross, give me the mic. One sec, please.
The big balloon attracting
Ross,
the flow.
please give me the mic. One sec.
Is that what you're saying?
Ross,
No,
give me the-
look, you do this every fucking time, Craig. Every
I'm
time
trying to work through the conversation bit by bit.
Out of a tap, Like, is
Right.
that what you're saying? That the moon is a balloon and it's pulling the water
No.
towards it like water
Right.
flowing out of the tap? When you
Okay,
have a balloon
you
on it?
said that you can't pull water. That is false.
Right.
Forces, right?
It's not.
Water is matter, right? It has mass, and anything that is matter simply reacts to forces acting upon it. That's it. Water doesn't have any special physics. It's just mass reacting to
That's
forces
not true.
acting on it.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
Water does not react to forces. Water
Yes,
is
it does.
a force.
No, I can make water react to forces.
No,
I can levitate water
by
with
turning on
sound.
the tap? By turning on a tap, all that's happening is it's reacting to the pressure that's under inside the enclosed hoses, and then it reacts differently. And then you're introducing a tiny little electrostatic force to make it.
So the water's reacting to the force, right?
Reacting to the force. But what's the water actually doing? It's still seeking its level on the way down. Though,
It's what it's doing is reacting to the force of created by gravity.
Show me use your balloon then to lift the water up off the out of the sink.
The balloon doesn't create a large enough force to do that. However, I can lift water out of a sink using a larger force created by sound.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's lots of videos of levitating water with sound.
Really?
Water is something that reacts to forces. Simple as that. Ross, sorry? you keep. Water is mass. Mass reacts to forces acting upon it. Like every other bit of matter in the universe.
Water will levitate reacting to sound. Can you show me a swimming pool of water levitating above the swimming pool because of sound?
I never said a swimming pool, I just said water.
Well, I did say a swimming pool because we're talking about truth.
Brilliant. So your standard of evidence is your standard of evidence.
Then levitate somehow magically towards the moon and away from the moon.
Yeah, well, gravity's creating a force that pulls the water. Simple.
Gravity is creating a force that pulls the water. Simple.
Correct. Yes.
But the Earth's gravity being at least 6 times stronger than the moon and being right next to the water is incapable of letting the moon pull the tides towards it and repel them on the opposite side of the Earth.
That's exactly what happens. But you notice how the water doesn't go flying to the moon because the Earth's gravity is busy holding it on because it's so much stronger.
Yeah, well, how come then we don't feel that in a glass of water? If I go out under the full moon, how come my water doesn't just jump out of my glass towards the moon?
Why would it? The force isn't large enough. The force that is being created. Yeah. Wait, do you want me to answer, or are you going to interrupt and not let me answer? Do you want me to answer, or are you going to interrupt and not let me answer? Okay, so the gravitational force acting on the water in the glass is very, very small, and there isn't enough of that water to move enough that would overcome the forces of friction and surface tension created by the side of the glass. However, the oceans have a much larger volume of water, with each molecule of water being affected, so a stronger force overall. So you wouldn't, there is a tide being created on the water in your glass, but it's so small that that tide is overridden by the other forces in the glass. I still haven't finished talking. That tide is overridden by the other forces in the glass, just like the lakes. There are some Great Lakes where there is a slight tide. However, a lot of the Great Lakes don't have visible tides. However, the tides are still there, but they're being overridden by the other forces in the lake, because there isn't enough of the water for the force to be large enough. Simple.
But they're exactly
very
the
much
same
like you.
Water molecules, exactly the same water molecules everywhere. And anywhere where you see examples of tides in these Great Lakes is because there's such a thing as the water table underneath the surface of the Earth. And
so there's a water underneath the surface of the Earth?
Sometimes these Great Lakes may be influenced by the nearby oceans that are rising. See, every time I try to speak a single sentence,
I missed what you heard.
Talking over me. Ross, shut up and I let you speak.
Yeah, Ross, I missed what you heard. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, no, what I'm saying is I missed what you heard, and I wanted to make sure I heard you right. That's all.
Every single time.
Ross,
I let you speak. When you tell me to shut up, I'm talking. I shut up and I let you talk. And I let you waffle on and I let you tell all your bullshit. And now it's my turn to speak. And I'm trying to tell you that these Great Lakes can be influenced by the water table, which are influenced by the tides. And that does not prove that they're tidal. It doesn't prove they're being pulled by the moon. It doesn't prove any amount of water is being pulled by the moon. So...
okay, so Ross, I wasn't interrupting you. I was trying to confirm what you said. No, okay, right. Again, I wasn't interrupting you. I was trying to confirm what you said. Right? I didn't hear, although I might not have heard what you said, because I thought you said that there's a water table under the lakes.
There's a water table of the Earth, and the Earth is sort of permeable. And so as a tide comes in on one side of a continent where those Great Lakes are on the east side of America, for example, and between America and Canada, then as that tidal influence is sort of pushing all the underground water as well, because the tides are pushed by the moon. They are not pulled. That's what I keep trying to get to in the long run of things, is that that's how it works on the stationary planar Earth, is the water is always seeking its level, and that there's a diamagnetic force from the moon that is repelling the water away beneath it. And that is why we can have two tides on the one stationary planar Earth, and they still coincide with the moon. The whole idea of the moon pulling tides, yeah, laugh all you like, Craig, but you've got nothing on this. I've got years and years of experience of watching the tides.
Oh, I've got plenty of experience of watching the tides. I was a sailor, remember, in the Royal Navy.
As the tide is getting higher and higher.
Hey, Ross, I bet I've seen the sea more than you.
Again, are you still talking over me, Craig?
I'm just saying that I bet I've seen the sea more than you.
No, you haven't.
I was in the Royal Navy. I bet I've seen the sea more than you.
Do you see tides out at sea? No, you don't.
Oh, you have to take them into account, actually, quite a lot. Yeah.
No, you don't.
You actually do have to take tides into account, because otherwise you can't go near certain areas.
Does the water level come up higher against the side of your boat when you're out in the kitchen there banging your knee on the oven?
No, there's a thing called buoyancy. But you have to take tides into account when you're at sea, Ross. I've seen a lot of tides.
No, you haven't.
Oh, no, I again, Royal Navy, many, many years, and some of that was at shore. I've seen tides, and I guarantee I've seen more than you.
Okay, and have you compared them with the moon phases and the moon times?
Yeah, and you see the moon go, and then the tide happens. Brilliant.
No, you're full of crap, Craig. You haven't watched it. You haven't spent the hours and hours and hours that I have watching the tides.
I guarantee I've spent more time watching the sea than you.
The tide is creeping up on the sand from a moon in the distance coming from the east. Like at that time of day, if the moon is pulling the tide, it would be pulling the tide out. It should be at its lowest. But it's reaching its highest as the moon is rising, and then by the time it's overhead, approximately 6 hours later, that's when we're at our low tide.
Yeah, Ross, I'm a seaman. Well, not the kind I rinse out from your mum's gums, but, you know, I've been at sea for many, many years. I've seen tides, taken them into account in my work. They match the heliocentric model and the predictions of the moon.
I'm pretty sure that when you're flipping burgers inside the kitchen, inside your submarine...
I was a nuclear engineer.
Yeah, well, still got nothing to do with the tides or the phases of the moon.
So the Royal Navy has nothing to do with the tides. Good to know.
We came on. You came across as somebody who likes to garden, and you're talking about all these things you're about to plant in your garden, which is great. How much do you take into account of the moon phases and the particular star sign that the moon is in at the time?
Absolutely none at all. I base it on temperatures outside. The moon has absolutely nothing to do with my crops growing successfully.
See that chart there? That is a moon planting guide.
Yeah, the moon has absolutely nothing to do with the crops.
Years. I've been using it for 30 years while I've been making all my tidal observations, while I go to the beach regularly, while I do all sorts of things. You know, even mowing the lawn, I do according to my moon chart.
But that's dumb.
And so if the moon's a fertile sign and it's...
Why have you got a lawn?
Waxing.
Wait.
Then I wouldn't be mowing my lawn at that time of day. Well, because I've often been in a rental place and it's requirements.
Ross, flat earth aside, but you're a man of nature and stuff, right? Why do you have a grass lawn? Seriously.
Look, don't interrupt me when I'm trying to make a point, please. Like, don't go off onto a tangent.
This is an important tangent.
If I'm going to mow my lawn, I'm going to do it at a time when the moon's in an infertile waning period. So therefore, I only have to do it once a month, and do it again the following week, and the following week, and the following week, and make extra work for myself. I've done all my gardening and landscaping stuff according to the moon cycles. How much have you ever done according to the moon and the cycles, and how much do you know how it relates to the tides in your environment where you live?
I know exactly how the moon phases and everything relate to the tides, but they certainly do not relate to any of my crops. Every year I grow successful crops, and it's nothing to do with the moon. But one quick aside, when you say cutting the lawn, do you have a grass lawn?
Oh, no, it's made out of palm trees.
No, I'm genuinely serious here. As a man of nature, I wouldn't expect you to have like a grass lawn because do
Do,
you know how
do
damaging they
you
are to
think
the
there's any
environment?
other type of lawn that's not grass, Coach?
Yeah,
Are you
clover.
seriously a man of science and you think that's a serious question?
Yeah, like why have you got a grass lawn when like they're really bad for the environment? You should have a clover lawn.
Oh, okay.
It's seriously, it's so much better for
The
the
environment.
environment.
I forgot about the environment. Oh, damn it.
Well,
Thanks, Craig.
bees.
Next time I'm going to go and plant a clover lawn.
Well, do you want bees to live? Because bees can't live off of grass, but bees can live off of clover.
Craig, when a person rents a property, part of the rental requirements is that you maintain the property as it is. You can't just go and plant an entire garden over it as much as you'd like to, unless you can make an agreement with
I
your
did
landlord.
here.
Well, you've made an agreement with your landlord. That's great. I mean, you live in Scotland. I mean, what can you grow there? A couple of thistles in every freaking summer? That's great.
Well,
But
no,
here
I'm
in
growing,
Australia,
like I said earlier,
yeah,
I'm growing
we have
tomatoes,
lawns.
potatoes,
I'm
onions,
on about
carrots,
2 acres of
broccoli,
lawn here,
peas,
and it's
cucumber,
mowed regularly. And a lot of it is
beans.
clover, and people are talking over me every time I talk. Craig, that's fine. You know, thanks for inviting me onto your channel so I can hear you talk over me every time I come out. This is just wonderful.
You go on quite a bit, and like you skip over things that we don't
Well,
really
you
get
asked
to
me the
talk about.
question, and I only try to answer it. You know, like,
Yeah, and then you go on to other
every time
things.
I ask you something, you talk over
But
me.
yeah, in all seriousness, you should be allowed to like scatter some clover seeds onto your lawn. It's
Look, the part
so
of my
much
lawn
better.
that turns into clover is one of the hardest parts to mow. It gets so thick. Okay, things grow here. Like this is like semi-tropical area where I
Yeah,
live.
yeah,
You know, I've
and
lived in this
if you
semi-tropical
put
region
clover
for most of
down,
my
that'll
life.
overtake the grass eventually. What you do is you scatter clover
That's
seeds,
horrible.
and then you mow your lawn to like a higher level, so the clover has a chance to get more energy from the sun, and then eventually the clover will overtake the grass, and it looks like a
But you
lawn,
know,
but
Craig,
it's made of little clover.
here in
Anyway, that's
Australia,
an aside. It's something I'm quite
here in
passionate about.
Australia, they sell clover killer because it's considered a weed. You want to get rid of it from your lawn.
No, no,
So,
you want
you
it. You
know,
want it in your
different,
lawn. You
different
want
climates,
clover.
different climates, different climates, mate. No, the clover here gets so thick,
Oh, Brendan gets
it's
a dab.
impossible.
Anyway, right, back to flat Earth and your misunderstanding of gravity and stuff. Um,
So have you got any proof for your spinning space ball yet?
well, yeah, all
Since
the
you,
images and stuff that you're going to simply deny, but you know, the measurements of Earth's rotation are always a good one for me. It's so easy to measure Earth's rotation. However, I know you're going to deny the measurements of Earth's rotation because if I recall
because you're
correctly,
looking at
Ross, you think that pendulums are controlled by demons, right?
you can summon demons to give you answers if you're using a pendulum. Absolutely, that's the whole point of why the soothsayers and the witches and all the rest have been using pendulums for so long, because they know that there are invisible entities around us. And demons doesn't necessarily mean a devil or a nasty entity or something. It could be any sort of non-physical being, and that's how pendulums work. Yeah.
And let's be clear, you're the one that claims that you have all the science and stuff backing you up, yet in the same time, pendulums are controlled by demons.
Well, when you see a crane sitting there with a wrecking ball on it and sitting there perfectly still, that's exactly as what you'd expect from a stationary planet Earth.
Also, what you'd
On your
expect from a
spinning
rotating
baseball,
globe. Yeah.
you're trying to say that these wrecking balls, while the crane is sitting there still, they should be showing the Earth's motion by reacting
No,
at a certain
absolutely
rate.
not what I'm saying. That's a straw man of what the Foucault's pendulum is. It doesn't work when it's still. It has to be swinging for it to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because on a rotating Earth, like it is, if a pendulum's just sitting there, it's just going to sit there and rotate with the Earth. But if the Earth is rotating and you start swinging that pendulum, there will be something that will happen if the Earth is a rotating globe.
Okay. So
And there will be
this is what you
something
call
that
the
what I
Coriolis.
was. You literally keep complaining about me interrupting you, but every time I can start getting an explanation,
Well, I'm
you
just
do
asking
the
you a
same.
question as we're talking. That is what you call the Coriolis, isn't it?
Yes, it's a
Is that
wonderful
the Coriolis or not?
it's a wonderful demonstration of the Coriolis effect being applied to a moving object, matching the predictions of the globe. In fact, you can use Foucault's sine law and the angle of drift of a pendulum to calculate your latitude on Earth. It's fantastic. It matches the physics of what you would expect a pendulum to do on a rotating globe.
Okay, so that's because it's attached to something attached to the Earth, right?
Yes, it has a pivot point. It's attached to the Earth via a pivot point.
So if I just got into a hot air balloon and raised up
that's not a pendulum
on an early morning with no wind, then because it's not attached to a skyhook attached to the Earth, it's not going to show Coriolis effect.
If you were to maintain, if you were to, let me respond. If you were to be able to maintain that exact position with the hot air balloon above a fixed point on Earth, a swinging pendulum would process the same way as if it was attached to the Earth via a pivot point. The important thing is that the bob of the pendulum is moving, right? And because that bob of the pendulum is moving, it's affected by the Coriolis force. It has a lateral force applied to it on each bit of the swing because it's moving.
Well, okay, so if the hot air balloon went up and the people in the basket sort of ran one side and back and made it swing, and then they just stood there for a while, would that swing show what latitude they're at?
Yeah, if they if they maintained their exact position above a fixed point on Earth, and that pendulum was swinging, and they were able to watch that pendulum for long enough to see the angle of drift over a certain amount of time, they would be able to calculate their latitude on Earth.
Okay, so the Earth itself is moving beneath them?
Technically, the Earth is rotating under the swinging pendulum, because a swinging pendulum. Let me finish. A swinging pendulum maintains its original direction of swing relative to the axis that it is on. So if you start swinging a pendulum towards the axis of Earth, it will maintain its swing relative to the axis of Earth.
But the balloon isn't attached to an arm like the pendulum.
No.
So how is it then that the swinging basket of the balloon is going to do the same as a pendulum, which is attached?
Oh, sorry, you meant the
arm?
basket. Rather, I didn't. Sorry, I misunderstood. You meant if the basket was swinging. Right, yeah. So, yeah, there would be, if the basket was to be able to maintain a pendulum-like motion of perfect back and forth, right, the direction of the swing of the basket would drift over time, right? Because each swing, if it was acting like a pendulum, every time that basket swinged, it would be a moving object and have that lateral force applied to it. And it would drift.
Okay,
so anything that does the same, like when Neil deGrasse Tyson explained the field goal kick, because that ball became a moving object, right? It had Coriolis force applied to it, a lateral force applied to it, based on it going from one latitude to another bit, and the difference in rotation of the Earth as it moves. A moving object on a rotating ball. Wait, hold on. Let me finish up. A moving object that is moving over a rotating ball will have a Coriolis force applied to it. Right? It's as simple as that.
So when the goalpost shifted underneath the ball,
it wasn't so much as the goalpost shifting underneath the ball. It was the ball had a force applied to it from the Coriolis effect.
Because it was spinning?
Because it was moving over a rotating ball.
Moving over a rotating ball. So the rotating ball moved with the goalpost on it, so the goalpost shifted.
Well, again, the ball was the thing that was...
The ball moved, so I just summed up what you said.
The ball was the thing that was affected by the Coriolis effect force, not the goalposts, all right? The ball was still moving within the Earth's atmosphere and everything, right? But because it's a moving object, it has a lateral force applied to it because it's moving on a rotating object. It's very simple, right? So let me get a thought experiment for you. So if you
I'm still trying to have finalised my question here, Craig. I'm just saying that then if the hot air balloon is similar to the football, and if the goalpost moved beneath the football in a split second to allow the football to pass through it.
No, the goalpost didn't move. I told you that.
And the hot air balloon is basically just stationary because there's nothing moving. There's no air. There's no wind. I mean,
the basket's moving, so right?
The Earth itself should be moving beneath the hot air balloon every single time.
Only if the basket's swinging.
No.
If the basket is swinging, because that's what a pendulum is. The Coriolis force doesn't apply to a stationary object.
Yeah, but come on, the football isn't a pendulum. It's not on a string. It's not dangled in the air.
No, but it is a moving. Again, it is a moving object, right? Just like the bob of the pendulum, right? But the bob of the pendulum. Let me finish. The bob of the pendulum has other forces acting on it, like the centripetal force applied by the arm of the pendulum, right? By the string that's holding it. That's creating another force that's pulling it back. And obviously we have to take into account the force of gravity pulling it down. You know, the same as a football going through the air. You know, but a pendulum will act in a different way to a football because it has that extra force of the string pulling it back. But you can still apply the Coriolis effect to it because the bob is a moving object. And because it's a moving object, over time, it will have... Let me finish. Because it's a moving object on the rotating Earth...
context at the same time with the hot air balloon.
Again...
We've got three different things here.
No, I'm not allowed to finish my statement. All right, then, fair enough. Sorry, I didn't get to finish what I was saying, so I don't know what you said.
Well, we're talking about three objects at the same time here. You're just going with the pendulum and the football.
Yeah.
And I'm also bringing in a hot air balloon without the pendulum. Let's just say the basket is just sitting there. Yeah. So all three of these things are all affected by the Coriolis force at the same time.
No, the hot air balloon isn't because it's not a moving object. It's stationary. The hot air balloon is just sitting there in the atmosphere that's rotating with the Earth. It's not having a Coriolis force applied to it. It's got a net sum of 0 Coriolis being applied to it, right? But if it moves in a direction, then it has a Coriolis force applied to it from the Coriolis effect, right?
So, like an aeroplane?
Yeah, an airplane traveling in a direction will be subject to the Coriolis forces, but they're so minute that, you know, the other things on the airplane deal with it, like the engines and, you know, the wind will be given a stronger force than the Coriolis, right?
It really sounds to me, Craig, like you're stretching here for a shitload of excuses.
Not in the slightest, it's just how physics works.
One's got engines, one doesn't have engines. What about the helicopter? It's got an engine, and it's hovering just like the hot air balloon.
Yeah, but it's not moving, is it?
And it can change directions and go a different direction. How's the atmosphere?
And when it changes direction, it's got Coriolis forces applied to it.
1,000 miles per hour as it's moving the hot air balloon at the same time to make it appear like it's perfect still.
Yeah, okay, now you're changing the subject.
No, it's exactly the same. It's all Coriolis.
The Coriolis, the atmosphere is taking the balloon with it, so the hot air balloon has a net sum of 0 Coriolis force being applied to it. If the helicopter is just hovering there, again, it has a net sum of 0. But if it I'm still talking. But if the helicopter starts moving in a direction, then it will have a amount of Coriolis force applied to it. Just like if the pendulum is just sitting there, it's not got a Coriolis force applied to it. But if you start swinging the pendulum, the Coriolis force is then applied to it. And because it's a swinging pendulum, you can use Foucault's sine law to calculate your latitude on Earth. And let's focus on that, which is the important point of this entire thing, right? How is it possible? How is it, Ross, hold on. Ross, this is my entire point here. Ross, this is my entire point here, so let me finish, right?
I can turn around and fly west.
No, you're not going to let me finish. So you're not going to let me finish? So you're not going to let me finish what I'm saying? No?
It's going to move the same speed, though, isn't it?
So you're not going to let me finish what I'm saying? So you're not going to let me finish what I'm saying, then? Are you going to let me finish? No. Are you going to let me finish what I was saying?
Finish what you're saying. Come on, hurry up.
Okay, excellent. So the entire point of this conversation is that when the pendulum is swinging, you can then use the amount of drift to calculate your latitude, right? And that's what I want to focus on. You let the pendulum swing for X amount of time, and it drifts X. You can then take the time and the drift, use Foucault's sine law, and calculate your latitude on Earth. And it works, right? Explain that.
Well, you're the one telling the story. Yeah,
But I'm telling you that this is the fact. This works, right? Because the Earth is a rotating globe.
Explain your story. I'm explaining to you that if a helicopter takes up off the ground...
Yeah, we're not talking about helicopters. We're talking about pendulums right now.
It goes straight up. It turns towards the west and it flies 50 metres.
But we're not talking about helicopters. We're talking about pendulums.
It turns out it goes 50 metres to the east.
Yeah,
How
but we're not
much
talking...
has the Earth turned beneath it?
We're not talking about helicopters. We're talking about pendulums. So let's stick with one conversation at a time, right? So... when the pendulum...
No, corridor affects everything that leaves
but right now we're talking about pendulums, so let's stick to the pendulum and try and focus on the question, okay? Right, so...
I like the way you're trying to hijack the conversation, but...
Yeah, because this is my evidence, and I would like to discuss my evidence. My evidence is that you can use the drift of a pendulum to calculate your latitude on Earth. And I would like you to explain that if the Earth isn't a rotating globe.
So you want to keep summoning demons and ignore real-world physical things. You're the one that brought up Neil deGrasse Tyson's football. That's not a pendulum. Why can't I bring up the hot air balloon and the helicopter?
Yeah. It was just part of the explanation of your question. But my entire point of this was that you can use the pendulum, the drift, and the amount of time that it took to calculate your latitude on Earth. I would like the explanation for the flat Earth for how that happens.
Well, the pendulum's going to react to whatever force you started it with, isn't it? You use a big enough pendulum, sometimes they go backwards.
No,
sometimes they don't work at all.
No, they don't.
Sometimes you need to put a motor into
Right, you won't answer the question.
Sometimes you have to actually reprogram them according to your latitude from the box they come in, so that they work in your particular university.
Right, you're ignoring the question, Ross. Right? I can use a latitude with no motor anywhere on Earth. Right? I can use it with no motor. Right? I just want you to listen. I just want you to answer this question specifically. I can use a pendulum anywhere on Earth with no motor, no special programming or anything. And using just the drift and the amount of time, I can calculate my latitude on Earth. What is the flat Earth explanation for that?
I just told you, Craig, there is none because it reacts to the force with which it was first started. And it will act in any different direction.
It matches your latitude on Earth. That's nothing to do with the force you started with. Exactly it matches your latitude on Earth. Explain that.
It doesn't?
It does.
I've seen people, right, they put a T-shirt on the ground.
I've done it myself.
In the warehouse ceiling, and they can make all sorts of different spirals. None of them match their latitude. It goes in whatever direction you first started it swinging with.
And if you leave it to just swing backwards and forwards, it drifts. And you can use that drift to calculate your latitude on Earth. It works. I have personally done it.
Yeah, well, again, Craig, your credibility is very stretched here.
Not in the slightest, because it's not just me that does it. It's anyone in the world with a physics degree.
Okay. Right, yeah. Let's assume then that the Earth is moving beneath your paint can when you let it go on the piece of string. Why then does the hot air balloon on a still day go straight up and straight down? Why is not the Earth moving beneath it? What force is pushing all that perfectly still air 1,000 miles per hour towards the east?
You're changing the subject then? So you're changing the subject?
It's exactly the same subject.
No, it's not, because we're talking about pendulums, not helicopters or hot air balloons. The specific question that you are avoiding, Ross, is about how I can calculate my latitude on Earth. How does that work?
We're talking about something that is not attached to the Earth.
And stop changing the subject and answer the question. Why can I use a pendulum to calculate my latitude on Earth?
Because you summon demons, Craig, because you're the devil worshipper yourself.
I don't
Is that what you want to hear?
I don't think the devil exists.
Come on. Well, what are you asking?
I want the flat Earth explanation for why it happens.
We've seen hundreds of demonstrations of Foucault's pendulum going backwards, not working,
no, we haven't.
Not doing.
There is no demonstrations of that anywhere.
it matches the expectations that you want it to match, then therefore, well, that's
There
true,
is, right, you
because
just
it has to
lied,
match.
because there is 0 demonstrations of pendulums going backwards compared to what they should be. None.
Bullshit. It's a well-known fact. You can probably
Show
look
me
it
it.
up in Wikipedia.
Yeah, no,
right
it's a
now.
lot of people talked about it, but there is 0 demonstrations of it anywhere. I've looked.
Yeah, sure you have.
I have. Right? So
So
stop avoiding the question and tell
Okay,
me
well,
how
tell
I can
me,
use
okay.
the drift of a swinging pendulum to calculate my latitude. How does that work?
Well, tell me how it doesn't work with the balloon. The balloon's
I'm
not
not
even
talking about
attached
balloons, I'm
to
talking
the-
about pendulums.
to the
Stop changing
arm
the subject.
of
A
the
balloon is
pendulum.
not a pendulum. How does it work with a pendulum?
What's the pendulum attached to?
Irrelevant. How does it work with a pendulum? Stop
I
changing the
wanna know how
subject
the
and just
pendulum
answer the
works.
question.
If you can't tell me how the pendulum works, how can I tell you how the pendulum
I've told
works?
you how it works. It has a Coriolis force applied to it when it's moving.
Yeah, but what's it attached to?
A pivot point.
A pivot point
Mm-hmm.
attached to the ground?
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And yet something that's not attached to the ground.
So you're
Like
changing the
sending up
subject
a-
again. So you're changing the subject again because we're not talking about things that aren't attached to the ground. We're talking about pendulums. Let's stick with the subject, Ross.
So we're talking about something attached to the ground.
We're talking about pendulums specifically, so let's keep talking specifically about pendulums, not hot air balloons, not helicopters, pendulums.
But Craig, you were the one that brought up the football in the first place.
Yeah, but now we're just talking
And the golf
specifically about
coach-
pendulums, and we're keeping the conversation on
No, you
pendulums.
were just talking about pendulums because that's all you
Yeah.
got. That's all you got. And I don't
Well, I've got
give a
lots
shit
of
about
things,
your
but right
pendulum.
now I'm specifically talking about my evidence regarding pendulums, right?
Okay,
And
well, I
I
don't
want
care
to
about
stop
your
changing the
evidence concerning
subject.
pendulum.
I want the flat
I don't
earth
care.
explanation for why I can calculate my
You're
latitude
desperate.
with a swinging pendulum.
You're desperate, Craig. You're desperate because you can't prove motion of the Earth underneath any other
It
thing.
matches the
except
motion.
something that's all
It does
attached to the
demonstrate
Earth.
that the motion of the Earth is a thing. It matches the predictions of the motion of the Earth. Stop avoiding the question, Ross. Why can I use a swinging pendulum to calculate my latitude on Earth?
Craig, why do you avoid the question that sometimes pendulums don't show the motion of the Earth?
That's
and they go backwards?
you've got no evidence of that. None at all.
You've got no evidence of yours.
Yeah, I've got lots. I've got
Oh, but
videos here I can show you. I've got my personal experiences. I've got every physics student
got
in the
my
world that's
personal
ever done a
experiences too.
degree. I
I've got
have
my personal
thousands
experience.
of
People jumped on
demonstrations.
airplanes and the Earth didn't move beneath them.
Yeah, so airplanes aren't pendulums. Stick with the subject, Ross. I know it's hard. Do you need me to play like a little video of like subway surfers underneath to have your attention focused?
I think, Craig, what you need to do is get over the fact that you're wrong, that pendulums do not prove motion of the Earth, and that you're desperately grappling for something that doesn't even exist.
Well,
and
you
that has
just
been proven wrong. a million
you just
times over.
said they
There's
don't
so
without
many
giving me any
examples
explanation for why they
not
do.
working, Craig. So many times where it doesn't work. It doesn't do what it's
When?
supposed to do.
Show me
It
the
has to be
evidence of when it doesn't work.
mechanised or a motor put to it to make it keep working.
Yeah, no,
It's-
I don't need to use a motor. I can show you plenty without a motor. And there's no
Okay,
videos or evidence of it not working.
There is. They even say during an eclipse they reverse, for crying out loud. How does
Again,
an
no,
eclipse
that's what
cause
people have said, but
pendulum to
again,
go
there's no evidence of that. It's people saying things
Well, why
with no
would
evidence.
people say that, Craig, if there's no evidence of it? And yet I'm supposed to believe you and no
Because I've got
lie.
evidence of
Somebody's
my
making
claims.
a career
I've
out of
got
trying to
evidence.
disprove the reality of the flat Earth.
Yeah,
You know,
again,
like-
I've got evidence.
You must be ashamed of
There is
yourself,
no
not
evidence
really
of your
making
claims.
money
There's evidence of my
being
claims.
anti-truth.
So
Wow.
again, I have evidence. I can show pendulums doing what I say they do. Stop avoiding the question and focus. And please explain to me how a pendulum allows me to calculate my latitude.
Okay, next topic.
Oh, so you're just going to admit defeat?
No, I've already answered you 1,000 times, Craig.
No, you went, sometimes it doesn't, with no evidence of that.
I think we can move past it because the pendulums do not prove what you say they're doing. You've
Apart
got
from
no
the fact they
evidence
do,
of
because I can use a pendulum to calculate my latitude on Earth.
Look, I know a guy who uses a pendulum to measure the strength of the bovies of his orgonite.
Yeah,
Is-
so
is he
I don't care what you know a guy that does what. This is a guy using a pendulum right now to measure the rotation of the Earth. he uses this pendulum that is swinging and the drift that it induces after a certain amount of time to calculate his latitude on Earth, because it works when you do it. How did he do it? How did he get this pendulum to swing and give that angle that he was able to calculate his latitude? Here's the maths that he followed. And he got his latitude at 49.8, which was, you know, about a degree off. But using this very, very...
accurate, isn't it?
It's a margin of error. All measurements have a margin of error.
I'm off by a degree.
Again,
I'm only 69 miles away from the
again,
spot I was going to do.
this,
that's pretty accurate.
Ross,
I'm only 69 miles.
Ross, all measurements, Ross, all measurements have a margin of error. Ross,
that's like 100 miles.
are you going to let me talk? Or are you going to... Right, listen to me. All measurements in the world ever have a margin of error. The margin of error of this experiment was less than 1%. That is pretty accurate.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, because all measurements in the world ever have a margin of error, right? But I can do this experiment and I can calculate my latitude within a reasonable margin of error. How does it work?
Demons.
Demons aren't a thing.
Prove it.
Well, no, you've just said it's demons. I would need evidence of demons.
Well, no, you just asked me for something, and I'm saying that you're full of shit in the first place. So I don't know why you're still talking about shit.
So denial is all you've got when I'm literally showing you it working. I'm literally showing you it working, and your answer is demons.
Well, I'd like to see something accurate in the first place. I'd like
this
to see
is pretty
something
accurate. It's a
100 miles.
Less than 1% error.
Less than 1% of what?
Less than 1% of the of the Earth. He was less than 1% of the 1.4 degrees. If we say the Earth's 360 degrees, 1.4 degrees would be, you know, like less than a third of a degree, less than a third of a percent, right?
100 miles. 100 miles.
Yep. And how big's Earth?
100 miles is a lot.
And how big is Earth? How big is Earth? Yeah, it's a tiny margin of error. For a very
if I gave you directions to go down
Ross,
the shop,
you keep interrupting me, Ross. Look at the setup, right? He has a very basic setup, and that is his margin of error with that setup. There are much more accurate measurements. This is just the margin of error with this measurement, but it's still less than a third of a percent away from his actual position based on the Earth.
Okay, so you've admitted you're wrong. You've admitted it doesn't work.
It does work within a decent margin of error.
It actually shows motion of the Earth, Craig. How come no flying vehicle ever accounts for motion of the Earth? That would be more important to me. That's a real.
Why would a flying vehicle account for the motion of the Earth?
Well, because it moves above the Earth and it's flying through the atmosphere, and I would like to think
which is
that if the Earth was moving beneath it, I'd like to think it would land pretty safely.
Well, what you just did there was show you don't understand how flight works, because the Earth's not moving underneath the planes if they're flying through the atmosphere, because the atmosphere is moving with the Earth.
Okay, so what evidence do you have to show that the atmosphere, when it's standing perfectly still, is actually moving about 1,000 miles an hour towards the east with the spinning ball?
It's not where I am. The atmosphere here is moving towards the east at about 220 miles an hour.
Let's assume we all live at the equator. Yeah, and let's just assume we're all coming from the equator here. Everybody lives on the equator, so we're all spinning at 1,040 miles per hour. So every time...
No, you don't spin at miles per hour. You spin at 0.00064694 RPM.
Fuck's sake. Look, you can change the units of measurement as much as you like. It doesn't change the reality of it.
Well, it does when you do the calculations for centripetal and centrifugal force.
RPM at a radius of 4,000 miles on a 25,000 mile circumference spinning space ball is 1,040 miles per hour, Craig.
Yep, so out of interest, what's the centrifugal force on that?
The reality of your own belief, it doesn't work, because the reality of your own belief is going to debunk.
Ross, just out of interest, what's the centrifugal force applied for that?
I don't give a fuck about the centrifugal or the centripetal force. It's irrelevant.
They're important.
Okay, well, if you had a rope and it's 4,000 miles long and you spun it around once per day, and the person at the end of the rope is spinning at 1,035 miles per hour.
No, they're not spinning at 1,000. They're spinning at 0.000694 RPM.
Centripetal force of something being pushed away from them would be massive.
Could you do me the maths for that, please?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Yeah, it's about 0.03 meters per second squared.
And how did you work that out?
I did the maths.
What maths?
The maths
Can you
for centrifugal acceleration.
Can you run me through it?
Yeah.
Can you run me through it? So something moving at 1,035 miles per hour at the end of a 4,000-mile tether, the external pressure pushed against them, pushing outwards. You're trying to invoke the pull of gravity in your belief. I'm just trying to use it, a simple explanation of how something at the end of that tether. The forces pushed against that, the G forces would be massive.
G force is to do with acceleration, not constant velocity.
No, it applies to constant velocity.
No, G force applies to acceleration, not constant velocity.
It applies to constant velocity, Craig.
No, it doesn't. You don't feel constant velocity. G force
it
applies
does
to
if you're
acceleration.
at the end of a tether and you're going around something.
Okay.
A merry-go-round would have a G force. It'd be very minimal, but it would have one. But we're talking about a 4,000-mile radius to the outside of the merry-go-round going around once per day. And what did we come up with?
0.03 meters per second squared.
And can you show us this formula, please?
Well, you want the formula for centrifugal acceleration, like omega equals 2 times... there's a bunch of different formulas for centrifugal acceleration. We can calculate in many different ways.
Yeah, but how about we just use sensible terms? Like, I don't even know who this omega person is you're talking about. Let's just use actual, common language.
Well, you have to understand some basic maths if I'm going to take you through it.
Yeah, well, I understand 1 plus 1. I think that equals 3, doesn't it?
Maybe in your world, but I mean, like, you take the formula for centrifugal acceleration, you plug in the radius of Earth, you plug in the, how fast it's spinning. You plug in the numbers of what the facts are, and you get the centrifugal acceleration at the equator, which is fucking tiny.
Let's just talk about a rope.
Yeah.
And we make it 4,000 miles long, and we have it spinning at 0.00694 RPM, so it takes 24 hours to make one rotation, which means that the thing at the end of that rope is actually moving a velocity of 1,035 miles per hour. It would have a centripetal force pushing outwards from that, something massive.
Could you do the maths for that, please, and show me?
I can't do the maths because, it's beyond
so
my
when you do the maths...
Have you ever been on, like, the Gravitron ride, for example? The Gravitron ride, I think it spins, 16 times a minute or something like that. It has a fairly strong force, but it's only about 4 or 5 meters of a radius. It's not 4,000 miles. Right,
so I'll take you through one of the basic formulas, right? The acceleration equals omega squared times the radius of Earth. So you take the Earth's angular velocity. You have to calculate the angular velocity and get the radians per second. And you put in the radius of Earth, which is approximately 6,378. 6,378,137 meters. Plug these values into the formula. You get the centrifugal acceleration of 0.0339 meters per second squared at the equator of Earth, based on the Earth's radius and the speed the Earth is rotating, the angular velocity of 7.292 times 10 to the negative 5 radians per second.
Yeah.
Simple
I
maths.
do only speak in English, I have to admit,
Right. But like I said, there's a bunch of formulas to calculate the centrifugal acceleration, but any formula you use, you will find out that the centrifugal acceleration at the equator is about 0.003 meters per second squared. right? It's
Yeah, but that's because
it's tiny.
they've already calculated in the assumption of the gravitational pull.
No, that's nothing
in
to do
relation.
with gravity. That is zero to do with gravity. That is just the centrifugal acceleration. Right?
No, but it'd be centripetal.
No,
Centripetal is the outward
centripetal
pull.
is pulling the centripetal would be the pull on the rope pulling in. Centrifugal is what's going out.
Okay, so on the outside surface of the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. At any given particular point, on the end of a 4,000-mile tether, spinning around at that speed.
Yeah. The centrifugal acceleration that they would experience is 0.0339 meters per second squared. Simple.
But meters per second squared doesn't really actually even imply anything about a force. Yeah,
It's
meters
the
per second
acceleration. We're talking about the centrifugal acceleration, which is what you were talking about. You were like, the centrifugal acceleration would be massive.
The outward force. Like if you've got a bucket of
the
water,
outward force is tiny.
If you've got a bucket of water by your side and you start spinning it around like as you do, like that,
That's way faster than the Earth is spinning.
It's holding the water within the bucket, okay?
Yeah. That bucket's spinning a lot faster than the Earth is, though.
But Craig, if you've then got a pivot point at your shoulder and your arm is 4,000 miles long, it's a massive, massive arm, and you start swinging it, even if it only went around once per day, I can guarantee you that the water, if you poke a little hole in the bottom of that bucket, that water would be shot out of that bucket like a bullet so fast you couldn't imagine it.
Yeah, but the bucket that you're swinging is going a lot faster than Earth.
Well, technically and not technically, because you're not.
No, it is.
Factoring
it's spinning way faster than Earth. It has a much higher centrifugal acceleration. Right? Ross, stop 1 second, buddy. What you need to do is calculate the centrifugal acceleration acting on the water in that bucket versus the centrifugal acceleration acting on anything on the equator. That bucket is going to have a much higher centrifugal acceleration than anything at the equator. The centrifugal acceleration experienced at the equator with, the one rotation a day at that radius is 0.0339 meters per second squared. It is tiny.
So you're still not listening. You're still not listening.
And I explained the maths to you.
If we had a bucket at the end of an arm or a rope 4,000 miles long, you can't comprehend 4,000 miles. That's your problem. You just glossing over it.
Again, I did the maths based on 4,000 miles.
It's just mathematical to you. You can't understand the physics of something that is so big.
This is the physics. This is the physics. The physics is 0.0339 meters per second squared. That is the physics.
1 mile of a tether is the biggest tether. You can imagine there's not even a bridge, a suspension bridge, probably even close to that. And if you imagine it spinning around, it can't be done. You can't do a scale model of tiny little experiments and spinning
the physics.
Right.
If you had a bucket of water on a thing that long going at one rotation a day, the water in that bucket would be experiencing a centrifugal acceleration of 0.0339 meters per second squared. That's how fast the water would come out of the end. That's how fast it would accelerate if there was a hole in the bucket.
Say that again. How many? 0.0003?
0.0339 meters per second squared. That is how fast the water would accelerate out of a hole in the bucket.
So did you hear that about the per second squared?
Yes. That's the acceleration. The water would come out at 0.03 meters per second squared. That is the acceleration it is experiencing.
That speed is being squared and getting faster and faster and faster to the point that water will be expelled out so fast to be the speed of light.
No, that's its acceleration. That's the acceleration that it has. That means that it will accelerate at 0.0339 meters per second squared once it leaves the bucket.
Okay, so a lot of you globers have used a very, very poor, false flat earth analogy of saying that instead of having gravity, the Earth is rising 9.8 meters per second squared. And a
No
lot
one
of you
says
then
that.
go and debunk that idea, not you personally, but a lot of you have, by saying that within about 30 years, the Earth would be moving so fast because it's going per second squared. So because you've just used an example then of per second squared, you're talking about an acceleration, which means that that water is going to be accelerating faster and faster, so that
Fuck
within
me.
a very short period of time, it will be going the speed of light. And that's what happens when you're going to do per second squared as an analogy.
Do you not? Oh my god. 0.0339 meters per second squared means that every second you will be going faster by 0.0339 meters.
Yep.
Right? So every second you're going faster by that amount. Right? That's this, Ross.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what the power of doubling is?
Yeah. I don't think you understand what
Like,
acceleration is, right? That is the acceleration that it has at that point. It will leave that bucket, if a hole is in that bucket, and the tether is the radius of Earth, right? The water will leave that bucket with an acceleration of 0.0339 meters per second squared, right? That's compared...
But the bucket is moving 1,040 miles per hour.
Yes, it is. You're right. It is moving tangentially at 1,040 miles an hour. The centrifugal acceleration on the water in that bucket is still 0.0339 meters per second squared. That doesn't change.
So you're saying if I got in a fighter, a jet plane, and I went 1/3 times the speed of sound, and this jet then is attached to a long tether, it's 4,000 miles long, and I just went around and around and around. Then I could
once in a day. You went around once in a day, right?
And the water isn't going to go flying out.
You go around once in a day, the same as the Earth?
Yeah.
Then it's the same acceleration of 0.0339 meters per second squared. That is the centrifugal acceleration. Right, Ross, I don't think you understand, right? It's not going to change. With the radius of Earth and the rotation of Earth, that is the centrifugal acceleration at the equator. It's tiny. Compare that to the acceleration caused by gravity, which is about 9.8 meters per second squared.
Oh, there we go. Here's the gravity we've all been waiting for.
Yeah, right? And that's why at the equator, you weigh less than you do at the poles. Because at the equator, there is that centrifugal acceleration, which is... well, let me finish, right? At the equator, you have that centrifugal acceleration that is acting in the opposite direction of gravity. A tiny amount, it's about 0.3% of what gravity is, right? But it reduces the perceived gravitational acceleration by that amount, making you weigh slightly less at the equator compared to the poles where there is no centrifugal acceleration.
That is the most utterly ridiculous amount of rubbish I think I've ever heard in one time.
It's just physics. You not understanding physics doesn't matter.
You trying to explain physics the way you'd like them to be does matter.
Well, no, that's how physics is. Just ask anyone with a degree in physics and they will agree with me.
He can sit there and he's not perturbed by the spin at all, by the people on the outside have been pushed against the walls with huge force.
What
just
force?
A few meters away from him.
Yeah, let's go spinning way faster than the Earth. The centrifugal acceleration on that is way more than the Earth.
For 30 years.
So do the maths on the centrifugal acceleration for what you're talking about compared to Earth. Simple.
Okay, so but you're comparing, say, sitting at the poles and then sitting in the centre of the Earth.
The poles do not have a centrifugal acceleration because you're standing on the spot, turning round.
Okay. Look, I'm going to grant you this. I'm going to give you this point and say, okay, let's say you are correct with all of those things you've said.
I am.
All these massive speeds. Okay, so orbital speed. 66,000 miles per hour going around the sun.
No, that's not the orbital speed of Earth because Earth's orbit is elliptical, so it doesn't have a constant speed.
Oh, because it's not constant, then using an average is meaningless. How far away is the sun? 93 million miles. Sometimes 96 million.
It depends on the time of the year. It's over 90 million miles away, yeah.
Okay, so and it takes how long to go around the sun once?
A year.
A year. Okay.
Yeah.
So to go those distances means you're moving an average speed of about 67,000 miles per hour at any given moment.
Relative to what?
The sun. How else
Tangential
do you get a
speed
year
relative
if
to
you're
the
going around
sun.
the sun?
Yeah, okay, I will agree that the Earth has an average speed of approximately 67,000 miles an hour relative to the sun. So what about that?
Well, yeah, okay. So then, if the surface is spinning of the equator at 1,040 miles per hour, then that would mean that sometime during that day, as the Earth is going 1.6 million miles to travel nearly 1 degree around the sun, because that's how long it takes to go around throughout the year, then that speed of 1,040 miles per hour is sometimes going with the orbital speed, and sometimes it's going backwards relative to the orbital speed, because there's two sides of a spinning ball, one going forwards, one going backwards at any
Speed's
given
relative.
moment.
You are
So that would mean
100% correct that speed is
actually
relative.
going. Sorry, are you trying to talk over me again? I missed that.
No, I was just saying you're correct that speed is
You should let me
relative.
know every time you're going to talk over me, so I know when to stop and shut up.
No, I was just saying that you're correct, Ross, that speed is relative. I was agreeing with you.
Right. So this 67,000 mile per hour journey that we're doing all the time, roughly about Mach 86.8, I think.
No, it's not Mach 86 because Mach is relative to the atmosphere, so Mach doesn't work in space.
Yes, but we can still, simplify speeds. If you really wish to multiply
Mach isn't relative to the atmosphere.
by 767 miles per hour and call it 67,000 miles per hour, fine. But most people will just gloss over that because 67,000 miles per hour is meaningless. We stick our hand out the window at 60 miles per hour, we feel that speed. It's a huge speed. So when we start talking about Mach speeds, we can't fathom it in our heads. So we have to try and at least break it down and simplify it a little bit.
I can fathom the big numbers. I don't know why you can't imagine the big numbers. It's no problem for me.
So you've stuck your head out of an aeroplane going 500 miles per hour?
No, that would be dumb.
No. So how do you comprehend what 500 miles per hour feels like?
Because I can imagine things. It's something I've developed over my lifetime.
You can imagine things.
Yeah.
Yes, but when you stick your hand out of the car window at 60 miles per hour, Craig, you feel. You don't have to imagine it. You can feel some real, actual speed. That's what speed feels like. You can feel it.
Well, no, what you're feeling there is the friction
of the air
as you're going through it.
7,000 miles per hour, nobody can imagine that. You can't imagine it. You tell yourself you can imagine it. Oh,
yeah, I can. It's just a big number. I don't have problems with big numbers.
So I can imagine all sorts of stuff, but you've got no idea what that sort of speed is like. And when you're on a ball spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, moving one direction, 67,000 miles per hour, that means that one side of the spinning ball is going with that speed, which puts up to about a Mach 88 speed. I know you don't like Mach.
Machs don't work in space.
And the side going backwards is only going about Mach 84 in comparison.
Yes,
but the whole lot is
relative.
still moving
Absolutely.
At 86. So
stop using Mach. Mach doesn't work in space.
Every time you're talking over me, Craig, you're really good at this. You're like a professional fucking troll, aren't you?
I'm agreeing with you on certain things. No one disagrees with you that speed is a relative phenomenon. Absolutely, 100% Ross, you are correct. Speed is relative. I agree with you.
Did I say relative?
Well, that's what you're saying is that, relative...
I'm trying to say speed is real. Speed is real.
No, speed is relative.
Spaceball, if half of your spinning spaceball is going with the orbital speed of what you hate to call Mach 86.8, but you have to accept that that's what it is. If that's
it's not, there's no
what the orbital speed is. Oh well, what do you want to call it? 67,000 miles per hour?
Yeah, let's call it what it is. It's not a Mach because there's no medium, so let's stick with what it is, a tangential speed of averagely 67,000 miles an hour.
The tangential speed averaging 67,000 miles per hour. Right,
yeah.
So how about we make a diagram? let's make a diagram, okay? We've got a merry-go-round, and it's on the back of a truck or a train. So the train is a really long train, and the train is what moves at 67,000 miles per hour, even though the fastest train on Earth only goes about 600 miles per hour, the bullet train. But let's assume this one goes 67,000 miles per hour, and our merry-go-round spinning once per day goes 1,040 miles per hour. Then the people on one side of the merry-go-round who are facing the back of the train, they're sort of traveling backwards in a way because the merry-go-round is moving back relative to it. And the other side of the merry-go-round is moving with the speed of the train. They go on the equivalent, and it works out to be about a Mach 4 difference either side of the merry-go-round, which happens, because it happens every 24 hours, is every 12 hours. So people are going a Mach 4 difference every day, and we can't feel that because we're told, oh, speed is relative.
Yeah, speed is relative. So you just answered so you did a bunch of babbling and then answered your own question whilst also denying the answer. That's kind of a you problem. Well, what acceleration?
Do we only feel acceleration?
Yes.
So why don't we feel the acceleration between Mach 4 backwards this way and Mach 4
There is no acceleration because speed is relative.
We've just proven that there is.
No, speed is relative. It's all relative to each other. There's no acceleration. The Earth is just rotating. The entire Earth is also orbiting the Sun. It's fine. There's no issues there. So we've got one speed relative to one thing, with another speed relative to another thing. There is no acceleration.
There is.
No, there's not.
I just explained it to you.
The entire Earth is going the same speed.
Yes, but it's also spinning.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that the entire thing is accelerating, right? If I move this left to right, okay, right? If I move this left to right here, let me talk a sec, right? If I move this globe left to right across the screen, but then I do it the same whilst rotating, that doesn't mean that there's a difference. The whole thing is still going the same speed.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. The entire ball is still moving at the same speed.
See, when you're spinning it, the part that's spinning back when the Earth is going that way, it's going a different direction.
Yeah,
so
but that's relative to the axis of Earth. There's no acceleration relative to the axis of Earth.
Well, there is.
Well, no, the Earth rotates once on its axis every day. There's no acceleration.
Now, have you ever been to like a showground or a fair where they have rides and all that sort of stuff? You know, like teacup ride and all that
all the time. And none of those are equivalent to Earth in space.
Why not?
Because they don't do the same thing that Earth does. They don't rotate at a constant velocity whilst orbiting the Earth at an average speed.
Stationary. That's right, Craig. That's right.
Well, it's not measured the Earth's rotation, so it can't be stationary.
You haven't measured Earth's rotation.
Oh, I did measure Earth's rotation. I absolutely 100% measured Earth's rotation because demons aren't a thing.
Watching a pendulum swing backwards and forwards is proof of Earth's rotation.
It matches the physics of what you expect on the Earth, yes.
Okay, and you can't think that there could be anything else affecting that, like electromagnetic forces or something?
No, I've done it. It can be done with many different materials, and you get the same result. So that means different materials would react differently to electromagnetic forces, and you would get different results, but you don't.
And you've proven this as well?
Yes, my group in physics did it with many different materials. There was one guy who did it with a block of ice.
Your group of physics? What group of physics?
When I did my physics degree, the group that I was in that did the experiment, one of the people did it with a block of ice.
Right.
Right. I did it with wood. There was a guy that did it with lead. There was a guy that did it with plastic filled with sand.
So we're supposed to believe all your hearsay observations.
What we could do, Ross, is go to a local university that teaches physics.
Proof against everything that we see for ourselves that proves that Earth is flat.
Ross, how about, what's the closest university to you that teaches physics?
Closest university to me that teaches physics?
Yeah.
I know. Do I know any?
Well, figure out which one it is, go there, and ask the physics professor about the pendulum experiment that their class is doing this year.
Well, why would I do that, Craig? We've got the internet at my fingertips, man.
Well, okay, email him then. Find out the university, email the physics professor at that university, and ask him to describe the Foucault's pendulum experiment that his class is doing this year. Because his class will be doing a Foucault's pendulum experiment.
Oh, man, you are so deeply embedded in this bullshit, aren't you?
Oh, physics.
You really actually believe it. You really actually believe it.
Well, I tested it myself to make sure, so, you know, belief is irrelevant.
Tested it yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yep.
See, I've tested that the measurements of Earth work live on stream.
Yeah, I remember that time when I was lost at sea out in a boat, and all I did is I just pointed at any direction and just flowed 8 inches per mile downhill. Any direction didn't matter because it's all downhill anywhere on the ocean. Like,
That's not how that works.
It's all downhill everywhere from everywhere.
It's not downhill, because that's not how gravity works, Dindom.
Well, it has to be. It has to be. Like, you pick any point on your ball, any point from there is downhill.
No, because
Any
at
point on your
every
ball is
single...
downhill.
Right, if you're here, right, gravity is pulling you towards the
everywhere's downhill.
center. Right, if you're here, gravity is also pulling you towards the center. You don't go downhill, right, because it's not like this, right? You go like this, and down is always
So in
towards the
other
center. There is no
So in other words,
downhill
everything
unless you
you
go
were
up in
saying is
elevation.
theoretical.
Apart from in
Everything you were
Scotland, of
saying
course,
is
there's always
theoretical,
hills in Scotland.
and
In
it's
Scotland,
believed
when you go in somewhere, you go up a hill.
that-
When you're coming back, you go up a hill.
Everything is a belief that exists in your head.
I don't have
Everything.
beliefs. I verify things through empirical observations and
You
experimentation.
just gave me a ball and say everything's pulling towards here and everything's pulling towards
Well, yeah,
here.
I've also tested gravity.
Oh, you've tested gravity.
Uh-huh.
What did it score?
Very highly.
Very highly?
Yeah.
I'm sure it was only 9.8 meters per second squared, right?
Well, that's an acceleration that I figured out in high school. I did a much more thorough testing of the
you
gravitational
figured out-
acceleration
I completely figured out
during
the
the
acceleration.
Cavendish experiment I performed in my physics degree.
Cavendish experiment you performed in your physics degree.
Yeah.
And
Just
did
like, again, if you
did
contact that physics professor I was talking about, ask him about the Cavendish experiment his class will be taking this year, and he'll talk to you about
But
that as
I'm
well.
talking to you now, Craig. I don't feel like going and talking to somebody on their Sunday, on the day off. You know, like you're the one telling the story. You're the one that did all this at university.
Yeah.
Let me see the
Again,
Cavendish
everyone that takes a physics degree does the Cavendish experiment.
But you did.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah. Well, let's see it.
Well, I didn't record what I did back in 2003, unfortunately.
Why not?
Well, because cameras weren't as readily available, and I wasn't required to record it for my physics degree.
So, but you can do it right now, though.
Do you see a pendulum in my house? Or sorry, do you see a Cavendish setup in my house right now? No, I don't have a Cavendish setup in my house.
Oh, that's disappointing. So I just have to take your word for it. Something you did in 2003 proves that gravity is a real thing.
Well, lots of people have done it since then.
How long have we been talking for?
2 hours and 27 minutes.
I had a feeling it's been a bit long. I just had the notification saying the battery's getting low.
Well,
So
is that you saying that you need to get on with the rest of your day?
no, I'm just saying that my battery's getting low. Like,
Should probably plug it
why
in
would
then.
you read something into that? My battery's getting low. It says 15% power left. That's all I got, 15%.
Why isn't it plugged in, man?
So, because I've got it sitting in a stand and you can't plug it in because it needs to sit on a wireless charger because the plug it doesn't work. And so the wireless charger doesn't fit in a stand.
Okay then.
So look, this is the wireless charger. This is the charger thing. So if I put the phone onto that and it clicks in and I can plug it into here, the plug works. But if I plug it in the phone, it doesn't work because the plug's routed.
Right.
That's why I got a wireless charger.
I mean, I've got my wireless charger here that I put my phone on, right? But I can also take the cable out the back of the wireless charger and put it into my phone. Can you not do that?
Yeah, and that's what I'm telling you, that the phone plug doesn't work.
Ah,
That's why I
right,
got the
okay.
wireless.
It's faulty.
Yeah.
I see,
Yeah,
I
it's
see,
a pretty
I
old
see.
phone. I've had it for a few years now, and comes to work with me every day. And obviously, the amount of crap that gets up in its hole, I go, I'll plug it in,
Right. So,
and it doesn't work.
So anyway, Cavendish, yeah. What's your issue with the Cavendish experiment then?
Well, again, it's another faulty experiment. It doesn't always work, just like with the Foucault's pendulum.
Whenever it's
Sometimes
done
it
properly,
works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you have to sit and wait for days for things to be attracted. And
No, you
obviously,
don't.
when something comes to rest against something, that's just what it's going to do. Yeah, nothing is ever perfectly at
I mean, it
rest.
doesn't.
It's constantly
You
being
don't
circulated
come
by
to rest.
air, current, and all the rest. You know,
Uh,
there's nothing about Cavendish's experiment that proves gravity, because obviously
apart from
Earth
it matches
gravity
gravity's
beneath is going
predictions,
to
of
be way,
course.
way stronger than, say, the bowling ball at the other end or whatever. Anyway, so you'll find whatever you're looking for if that's what you're looking for. You know,
Well, I
if
was
that's what you
looking
want.
to measure and calculate the gravitational constant of the universe, which I actually managed to calculate to like 3-4 decimal places quite well with the results of my experiment, which also
Gravitational
matched the
constant of
results
the
of the
universe.
experiment that everyone else that did it properly as well. The thing is, you just went and said, oh, well, it's an experiment that doesn't work sometimes. It doesn't work if it's not done properly. If it's done properly, it
Gravitational
works.
constant of the universe, Craig. That's the words you just used. Gravitational constant of the universe.
Yeah. Big G.
Okay. So why do we need dark matter and dark energy? What are they?
Relevant to the gravitational constant of the universe? Dark energy and dark matter are just placeholders for things we don't understand yet.
Ah, of course.
Yeah. We don't know everything about everything. We can see the effects of dark matter and dark energy, but we don't really know what it is because it's
Okay, so if I
non-baryonic
Googled
in
up what is
nature.
gravity right now, it'll probably tell me it is the bending of space-time according to Einstein. So this gravitational constant
That's one
of
of
the
the things that
universe
cause gravity.
is bending space-time.
The gravitational
Can you
constant
explain
is it's a mathematical constant that allows you to turn a ratio of something into mathematical equation. So you don't need
like a Fibonacci
you
sequence, for
can
example?
you can use Newton's law without big G. You can just use it as a proportionality. So the force of gravity is proportional to the product of the two or more masses, and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. But if you want to turn that into a mathematical formula, you need to have the constant of proportionality, which is the big G, and that allows you to turn the proportion of Newton's law into an actual mathematical equation. But you can also
Sounds to me like you're
calculate that
stumbling an
universal
awful lot
gravitational
of-
constant by figuring out the attractive force between masses and doing the equation backwards.
Sounds to me like you're stumbling an awful lot here, and there's
Well, no,
never
it's
been
just
any
maths that
evidence
you
to
wouldn't
show that something
understand.
that of a greater mass is going to accelerate any faster than something of a lesser mass. Everything falls at the same rate, and that same rate can be
Incorrect.
described in the density and buoyancy formula by saying that the density of the medium resisting it is what determines the rate of anything falling through it, give or take its amount of resistance factored towards it. Like the feather in the medium of air has some amount of resistance because the feather is got a lot of air content in it. So it falls quite slowly. And if you remove the content of air and put it in a vacuum, it's going to drop exactly the same rate as a bowling ball. And yet the bowling ball and, say, a tiny little marble outside, dropped from a very great height, are still going to fall at exactly the same rate. Even though the mass of the bowling ball is much bigger, and comparatively, say, to the feather, the marble should drop slower. But nothing ever does. Everything
Incorrect.
drops
That's not how
according to a
it should
different
be the same
factor
speed.
of the medium, Craig. I'm never finished.
You just got it all completely backwards. They should fall at the same speed because they have the same acceleration acting on them. But a bowling ball will have a larger force due to gravity acting on it to make it accelerate the same speed as something that is smaller.
That makes no sense.
It makes perfect sense.
No, it should have a greater accelerating force.
The acceleration is the same, so the force is greater.
But
because F equals ma, right? Like F equals ma. Yeah, simple, right? So if you have a bowling ball and a marble, right, and they're both accelerating at the same speed, okay?
Well, they're both starting at zero.
Yeah, so they're both starting at zero, and they both accelerate at 9.8 meters per second squared, okay?
Yep.
Now, The next thing we need to look at is the mass of those two objects, right? Which has the larger mass, the bowling ball or the marble?
The feather. Come on, Craig. Move on with it.
Right, just work with me, right? So obviously the bowling ball has a larger mass, okay?
Has a lot more mass,
right?
course.
So the bowling ball has a larger mass, yet it's accelerating at the same rate. That means if you do F equals ma, you find that the F is larger to keep the A the same. So a larger object will have a larger gravitational force acting on it to make it accelerate at the same speed as other things.
No, that...
Yes.
That makes no sense, Craig, because if then say I use a sheet of paper, and let's say it was a big sheet of cardboard and has exactly the same mass as the marble, and I dropped it at the same time too, it's not going to fall at the same rate as the marble or the same rate as the bowling ball.
Obviously, other forces exist, right? And now I've got that sheet of paper with a larger surface area. That means that there is a force acting against it, which can counter the acceleration created by gravity. That doesn't mean that force. That doesn't mean. Hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish. That doesn't mean that acceleration due to gravity has gone away. It just means that there's a force acting in the opposite direction. In this case, air resistance created by the surface area. That's creating a force in the opposite direction to the force created by gravity. But you remove that air resistance, right? Which means there's no force acting in the other direction, and they accelerate at the same speed.
So we put them in a vacuum. The cardboard sheet is going to fall the same rate as the other two things.
Yes, because you've removed that force acting in the other direction. Therefore,
we can conclude, if we use our brains, that the only force is resistance, and that resistance came from density, and that density came from the density.
There has to be another force. There has to be another force because the things are accelerating, and to accelerate, you have to have a force. Things don't just naturally accelerate. An acceleration is F times m, right? Force times the mass.
But there's also the same
force equals mass
law.
times acceleration, right?
Back to now.
Sorry?
I'm down to low battery. The force that we're talking about here is the equal and opposite reaction to the force enacted upon it in the first place.
Which force?
And that force was lifting it up or shooting it up or whatever you did to lift it in the first place. So each and everything is reacting.
No, forces aren't stored like that. An acceleration needs a constant force acting upon it, not a stored amount of energy discharged in one moment. And I think that may be his phone dying. You there, Ross? Yep, he's gone. Well, there we go. That was rage-inducing stupidity from someone who understands absolutely zero about physics. Oh my goodness me. Apologies in advance for the brain damage that you would have endured listening to that insane amount of derp. Remember, guys, pendulums are just controlled by demons, right? It's just how it is. So that's the answer as to how a pendulum works is fucking demons, right? Jesus, man. Oh man, it's been a weird month, guys. Struggled with dealing with everything after the court case and that, and the insane amount of pain that I've been in lately has been really hard. But I've also been focusing a lot on my health and me. You've probably noticed that I have lost a large amount of weight. My wee heart oopsie earlier in the year scared the shit out of me, and I decided to take a bit of time to focus on getting my health as good as I can get it, which is also going to be helpful for my amputation to be healthier and stronger when that happens. So I've lost like stupid amounts of weight, and I'm currently on day 10 of Wolfie, you fucking demon, thank you. I'm currently on day 10 of a 60-day ab challenge. I'm trying to get my strength back, and I'll say this here and now. Witsit, many times during my debates on the Tartaria server with him, in fact 37 times I counted, challenged me to a sit-up competition. Oh, how many sit-ups can you do? Well, Witsit, I accept your challenge, right? I will do a live sit-up challenge against you, Witsit. Live, right? And I guarantee I'll beat you. So I've not put out as much content as I normally do because I've been trying to focus on myself. And next month is going to be a fucking shitload of stuff being pumped your way because I'm better in myself. Being healthier is making me happier, and I feel like it's going to be able to help me focus more and get things done. So next month's going to be a real storm of content coming from the channel. But as always, this month, you guys, the support you've given me has been insane. You know, I can never say thank you enough. You made me cry, you know, and like, you're still fucking doing super chats now, and yeah, dancing every time I get a super chat. It's good physio, good cardio, right? But anyway, good things are coming. Let's read super chats and get out of here for the night. Tomorrow I'll release a Global Mum edit to finish off the month. I hope you all enjoy it. Connell Silver, member for 26 months, says Craig is an overgrown man-child. Says the bearded dwarf wearing the Harry Potter sorting hat. Yeah. Here's the great thing, right? When I first debated Flat Earth Aussie Jesus, I called him grandfather dumbass because I thought he was like 70 or something. The dude's only like 9 years older than me. Skidmark McGee for 199 says, OMG, it's Gandalf. Don't be mean to Gandalf. I love you too, Rachbot. All the hearts. Fusion, welcome to Scrappers. Wolfie, you get 10 dabs for that. I lost count. How many dabs? See, this is what I mean. You guys, the support is absolutely insane. It literally blows me away every time. Don't, because I will cry. Fusion became a new member. Welcome to Scrappers. I'm having a nightmare sorting out my bar underneath. I'm going to redo the whole thing, so your name should be on there soon. Whoop, whoop. Pat in the chat, 199, says, computer go into incredulity mode. Poor computer. Jolene, a member for 17 months, says, what is the definition of a cartoon? Flat Earth. Because whenever you ask for a picture of Flat Earth, all you ever get is cartoons. Where is it? I want the best Flat Earth cartoon. I've got it here somewhere. Here we go. See? Flat Earth cartoon. The Spirit for $10 says, Gandalf, you believe the Earth is flat? Would you also like to buy my ultra rare sea monkey eggs? They sell for 20,000 as adults. I'll sell you a batch of eggs for $20. Whoop whoop. Connor Silver for $5. I get it now. Dumbledweeb's brain cells are wearing the invisibility cloak. No wonder we can't find them. Grizzly X for €6.66. Hail Sagan. Do the superstar Diggle Wiggle. Look, guys, I'm serious. I want some GIFs made of my dad dancing, right? First GIF wins special prize. Borg says he likes it when I cry. Don't make me cry. Oh, more super chat. Gonna dance. Whoop, whoop. Do you like the finger dancing? How about that one? Connell Silver, oh no, I read that one. Pat in the chat for $2 says, I guess faith can move mountains and goalposts. And the Spirit has been a member for 30 months, says, I'm taking a shot every time he disregards facts. Shit, that was sent like 2.5 hours ago. Could somebody please do a welfare check on the spirit? Because if he's been doing a shot every time Flat Earth Jesus disregard facts, he may be dead. Shit. Sorry. Bill Tetley, $5. Hey there, fight the flat shirt. Did you forget that lies are facts and facts are lies to these Flerf tards? Stay strong, you beast. Yeah, that's opposite world. Absolutely. Golden Knight says I'd like to dance in better if he did it wearing a mankini. That's for my OnlyFans. The Spirit, $2. There's 1/5 of Jack gone. One more to go. Yeah, he's dead. He's dead. Bill Tetley, $2. Dance for me, biatch. Whoop whoop. We do the Macarena. There you go. DJ Moose, €10. Perhaps Gandalf can tell us what speed relative to Earth's surface, Sun, Moon are travelling when they're at the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Dance, Greg. My name's not Greg. Dab. Lord Luminous Proof, $2 says, meow kitso. Yes. Captain Dave. RT96, $2 says, Star Trek is fake. Battlestar, however, real. Yeah, man. I fucking loved the Battlestar remake from 2002. I used to get DVDs from Netflix back then, and we were watching Battlestar. I will, Borg. She does let me entertain you. She's lovely for that. Fat of the QTube family for $5 says, is slow mode on in the chat or the Flerfs brain? Well, slow mode is always on in Flerfs brains, so... The Grumpy Old Mechanic for $5. Which of the thousands of peer-reviewed scientific papers on the data and samples from the Apollo moon landings has Ross proven a fake? Wizard of Frobros for $5. If the Earth were flat, cats would have knocked everything off of it by now. Absolutely 100% correct. Albius for $2 says, my pet rock answered curved for fuck's sake. I know. If the rail is curved and it's level to the water, what does that mean about the water? It's flat. You see, read the description. There was a reason I put that. Alison for $2 says, why is navigation based on the globe? No flat Earth alternative? Because the Earth's a globe. Mr. E-Man for $10 Australian. Iron Horse. Water finds its own level, so the Earth is flat. But tides also prove flat Earth. Me. You must be kidding. Yeah, I know. Water's always flat. What are tides then? Fad the QTube family for $5. I could give a better Flerf argument by citing the nursery rhyme where the cow jumped over the moon, using that as proof the moon is small and local. Connell Silver for $2. Water doesn't have mass. Flat Earth Gandalf. Oh, fucking that. Brilliant. Neither does any liquid or fluid or anything. They don't have mass. Glover Mum, member for 15 months, says you can lead Ross to reality, but you can't make him think. His picture is next to the dictionary entry for personal incredulity. God is facepalming. God doesn't even exist and he's still facepalming. Thank you, Glover Mum. And tomorrow for a Glover Mum edit. It's a good one. PhD Tony, the only real man in the chat, for $10 Australian, says, what Newton and Einstein did for science, Flat Earth Jesus has done for stupidity. Fuck yeah. And then another 10 from Tony. Thank you, buddy. Tidal forces are a result of gravity differential. Over small length, the scales of the gravity differential is not large enough to produce a significant tide. Lakes. Huge arse coming in with the super chat. Tesla Radio for $6.66. Hail Sagan. Better question for Gandalf the Dumb is that what is the cause and mechanism of tides on a flat Earth? Well, magic, obviously. No. It's a table under the water, apparently. I know. Another 5 from the amazing Tony says, we detect tidal influences in gravimeters. We detect solid Earth tides and atmospheric tides. Yeah, those are all just magic words to Gandalf, you realise, right? The Grumpy Old Mechanic for $5 says, since Ross has just dismissed science with a nuh-uh, where Harold Urey, Eugene Shoemaker et al. Lying shills, or so stupid they couldn't recognise fakes. They were obviously just all dumb, mate. Just like everyone in NASA's so stupid, right? So stupid to create this amazing fake, yet get all the stuff wrong on the videos. The Watcher, thank you! Whoop whoop! Here's some dad dancing for you. Yeah, baby. Lord, it's probing time for 666 for $10 says, you deserve more for tolerating this moron, but I've extracted 90% for you embarrassing us Aussies by having this idiot on. I apologise. Not the best example of Australians, right? 3-1 for $5 says, Ross, FTFE can't interrupt when you make a point because you haven't ever made a valid point. CV McCullough for $2 says, check on PhD Tony, he should be melting down. Yeah, another welfare check, please. Kentucky Jerk for $5 says, 2 things. I believe in the Bible. Real Jesus knew the earth was a globe. Second, sad to see the singer from ZZ Top became a flat earth. Brilliant. Brendan Cusketty, you incredible fucking person, you. 50 Australian dollars, thank you. From the bottom of my cold, cold heart, thank you. Whoa, he really is so dumb. You need this, mate. Thank you very much. Brenda, for $5, says, please ask fake Gandalf if he has ever seen Polaris. If not, why not? Perspective and Flerfs stuff, I guess, would have been the answer. PhD Tony again, $5, says, Flat Earth Jesus claims about the Great Lakes. Can Ross tell us how high above sea level the Great Lakes are? Hint, where are Niagara Falls? No, Ross can't even tell you how to tie his shoelaces, dude. Rachbot is the best example of Australians in the chat. She's like my favourite bot that I've programmed. Thank you. Everything Dalek reviews. Whoop whoop. The Spirit for $2 says, my room is spinning, so Earth can't be flat. Good night all. Yeah, he's definitely in a coma right now. 3-1 for $5 says, I've reached my quota of complete ignorance from Ross. Sorry, I have to punch out. I understand. Alison for $2 says, make him explain why Folcult works every time. Demons. Obviously. Right? Matt Weston, 99 cents with an angry face. I understand, dude. I understand. Tim Pryor, $5. If I flew a small drone in my car going 60, is the drone flying 60 miles an hour? No, we're not moving when we're in a car, remember? Weber Helm for $5 says, keep hammering the pendulum. I did. Demons. Matt Weston became a new member. Welcome to Scrappers, you fucking awesome person. And then £2 from Matt Weston says, F1's race, lol. What? Don't know what that means. Thank you though, buddy. JSS Tiger for $5 says, centrifugal acceleration is 0.03 meters per second squared. Learn physics. Yeah, he can. There's like, he just can't. Matt Weston for $2 says, banned from text. I'm not sure what you mean, but thanks for the £2, dude. And then PhD Tony again for $5 says, the formula for centrifugal acceleration is V times 2 over R for a given velocity. The larger the radius, the smaller acceleration. Yeah. It's not hard. Well, it is if you're a Flerf, you don't do maths. Web Grow for $2.79 Canadian says, Gandalf version of Wish. Yeah. I want Gandalf. We've got Gandalf at home. Flat Earth Jesus. Brendan Cusketty, member for 30 months, says, whoa, I'm so ashamed to be an Australian. He does have that effect. Anthony Fox for $2 says, why hasn't he been nominated for top left next year? Don't worry. Albino Bad Guy, $5. If I have one bucket at the end of a 4,000 mile long tether and a bucket at the centre of that same tether, how many buckets do I have? Orange is the answer. Rachbot for $5 Australian says, all hail Craig, Lords of the Pendulum Demons. I will have all those demons. Connor Silver for $2. He can try to take physics, but he shall not pass. You shall not pass, because I raps fast like Shadowfax. Tom rid of my list, you bitch. How's little one going to beat my staff? I leave mics in flames. Top by Gandalf. Traveller X, for member for 39 months, says, good morning, just woke up. What scientific evidence for flat Earth have I missed? Don't worry, you didn't miss anything, buddy. Albias for 550 Canadian says, Ross, please list the experiments you've done to prove your beliefs. Also post them online. 0. Oh my goodness me. There's so many super chats, guys. You like... CV McCullough for $5 says, I had to change my handle because the Scot got my name wrong. I'm sorry, dude. I suck at names. Tesla Radio, member for 3 months, says, Ross hasn't changed any of his arguments. No, just as dumb as always. Janos Takos for 2048 Huffs says, let's ask a demon for my latitude. Nullum alec et nuc gugud gradud morbi est solicium quam sad sagittis felis ad nic colors finibus presentis sagittis organum mi lagatus egatasum. Did I just like summon a demon? Oh shit. Whoops. Wolfie 6020 with just the 50. Dude, you are a legend. Like, I mean, I don't know what to... Wolfie, from the bottom of my heart, man, everything you do is just amazing. I wish I could come and hang out with you. I really do. Toads in... Whoop whoop! More super chats! Toad in my eyes, $5 says, my pendulum demons are useless. They never start it without doing something. Weather Helm for $5 says, go keto, Craig. Carbohydrates are not our friend. It's just more about calorie restriction for me and dieting and exercising, and I'm doing really well. Also, ditch fizzy juice. Fizzy juice is a fucking demon. PhD Tony, $5 says, can someone call out Witsit's hair dye and comb over? Witsit, you've got a hair dye and comb over. Wolfie6020 for $100 or... For $100 Australian. Don't cry, we love you. I don't know how to not be emotional when you do things like this. Like, you can watch what I do for free. You know, you come here to the stream and you don't have to pay, right? But you do. And it blows my mind every time. Thank you. I don't have the words. Weather Helm for $10 says, I love you very much in a manly way, of course. Yeah, no homo. Love you back. Donald Trump's 34 indictments, best name. Member for 36 months says, wrong, 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 wrong. Mr. E-Man, $5 says, force does not work on water. Therefore, boat propellers don't work. The world according to Ross. CV McCullough for $2 says, Witsit, didn't PhD Tony put him out of commission? Witsit's scared to debate Professor Dave. Let it be known. Lord Luna's Poo, $5 says, during naughty times, my girlfriend said, make me scream. So I said, your sister is better. Oofed. Whoop whoop. I know. I'm sorry, McCullough. Hugh Jars, $14.99. Thank you, buddy. Says, I live back Towers Drive from Ross, but I can feel the dirt from here. Of course, he can see my backside from there, so fair is fair. Yeah, but Hugh, I can see your arse, so, you know. The Watcher for $10 says, you lost weight exercising. I lost weight by reducing my heavy drinking. Winners. Everything helps. Honestly, the main thing that started this off for me was the ditching the fizzy juice. Ridiculous difference. Everything Dalek Reviews for £2 says, love your content, wishing you health, all the best. Thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate it. The Casual Engineer for $10 Australian says, a broken clock is right more often than flopped Gandalf. And then Borg Emporio has been a member for 2 months. I love you, Borg. Says, you are the king of dumpster fires and nerdy demons. Hell yes. And then CV McCullough for $2 says, my last name, literally Scottish, you donut. I know. I am so sorry. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being the supporters you are. If you really want to help me, please share the stream. I didn't block you, Flat Earth Aussie Jesus. No, it's done now. We've had our debate. The debate. Because I love you all, or hate you, I'm not really sure. Here's a video of me rapping.
Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars?
And I will be fixing the
Should be wishing for a brain right now, brain right now, brain right now.
Good morning. These words come with a storm warning. Better batten down the hatches, grab some matches and brace yourself for a long day of misery. YouTube has given me the power to reach up into the sky and show you all that we live on the ball. I bring you science that's comprehensible. Your view is indefensible. You're reprehensible.
Go on, Mr. Sensible.
When I was young, I never thought I would be here to see this. A pile of random nonsense dressed up as bullshit. Your ignorance will be the death of us all, like running head first full speed into a wall. You could always read a book by a telescope, set it up and take a photo of the moon, or just be a buffoon. I send you in a balloon onto the stratosphere on page 3.
You're a few fries short of a happy meal. You're dumber than a box of hair. The wheel's spinning but the hamster's dead, and you're as smart as bait. You forgot to pay your brain bill. You're missing a few buttons on the remote control. 24 cents short of a quarter.
Thank you.
You're surfing in Nebraska. You're as bright as Alaska in December, and you fell out of your family tree.
Or
You don't
Cal
have
Software,
all
Larry
the
John,
cornflakes
Albius,
in one box.
MB,
You got an
Board
IQ
Proving
of 2
Time,
and it
you're
takes
fucking
3 to
amazing.
grunt.
Thanks for being here.
The elevator
Corey,
doesn't go all
Larry
the way
John.
up, and there's a vacancy
Of course,
on the
Rachel.
top floor. Your antenna doesn't pick
Thank
up
you,
all the
Caesar
channels.
Chasm.
You're several nuts short of a
Yo, Mr.
fruitcake.
Sensible, calm down, don't go too
my
hard. You
devil,
don't need
you
the
rock.
hard slap burying Flerfs in your backyard.
Man.
You're a man of science,
Hurts my eyes.
poise and grace. Mage 2 did everything to white
Deus Ex
grins up
Machina.
the face. So Nathan, get away from those kids. The world is not flat and it doesn't have a lid. Recognize the differences between the textbook and the Bible and control yourself. Lay off your slander and your lies. You're a bunch of knobs poisoning the well of the youth, spreading lies that you like to claim as knowledge and truth. Stop spreading fresh bullshit like the butter on your bread. Maybe a musical assault will knock some sense into your head. I hope one day you'll hear these lyrics and smile, and you realise you used to be a 40-year-old child. Now it's time to wake up, open your eyes and see, and acknowledge the existence of.
You're a few clowns short of a circus. Your phone is off the hook. Your sewing machine is out of thread. You're all foam and no beer. You don't have all your dogs on one leash. An intellect rivaled only by garden tools. There's no grain in your silo, and your skylight leaks a little. Your belt doesn't go through all the loops. You couldn't pour water out of a boot without instructions on the heel. Your slinky's kicked, and you're proof that evolution can work in reverse. A few feathers short of a whole duck, one fruit
Can we
loop short of
pretend
a
that
full bowl.
airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars? Should be wishing for a brain right now, brain right now, brain right now. Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars? Should be wishing for a brain right now, brain right now, brain right now.
You thought it was over? Well, I'm still standing while you're swinging, flinging feces, talking shit just like the human centipede. You got the mind of a chimp, and I'm here to expedite your shore leave. Cause I'm a seaman, but not the kind I ripped up when your mom's gums. I'm the kind that sailed submarines and fired guns. I could float a boat across the ocean with my eyes closed, circumnavigate the globe with a compass and a bag of sausage rolls. Well, all you can do is nibble on your toes. I'll smack you with the hose that you call a water level, sit and swivel. You nasal gazing muppet, you can stuff it harder than the wallet stuffed by Warren Buffett. And I don't care about your sauces unless you're serving them. And I don't care about your lines unless you're curving them. Now step away from me, you're sucking up my oxygen with the vacuum where your brain should be, you dumb fuck. Remember, stupidity's not right. Fight the flat earth.
Fight the flat, fight the flat, fight the flat, fight.
Good night.
Fight the flat,
Love
fight
you
the
all.
flat, fight.
I didn't